I call our meeting to order. I know we're a couple minutes late, but I'm trying to get organized.
Jean Bacon is the site administrator for the baseball game tonight. She will join us after the game.
She arrived.
She's already here. As directed, the administrative team has compiled potential cut options, none of which we recommend as educationally sound or in the best interest of teaching and learning. Before considering additional cuts, please note that we have also included a list of necessary corrections and additions to the FY19 budget. These are items that were not appropriately funded in the FY19 budget, which was approved by the school committee. We feel these documents have clear explanations and the cut options are color-coded as well as labeled. The documents were sent to the chair as directed, then sent to members as asked by the chair on Tuesday, May 22nd. We do not agree with any of these potential cuts, and you have put us in a difficult and compromising position in compiling this list. We respectfully request that you not engage us in this discussion and decision that the school committee needs to make. We are stating this now after hearing from the attorney last week that this should be said in the only place on the agenda is citizens' concerns that the audience speaks. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. I'm Melissa Gary. I'm a parent from Bernardston, and I have a letter to present. Dear Chairwoman Shearer and members of the Pioneer Valley Regional School Committee, we, the undersigned, members of the PVRSD community, write to express our concerns regarding the level of inaction and lack of accountability this committee is displaying in regard to the operation of our school district. We are well aware of and understand the challenges facing you in your oftentimes thankless positions and appreciate your willingness to serve our community. However, as elected officials representing our community, you are charged with fulfilling the promise of government of, by, and for the people. Based on the action, or lack thereof, of this committee, we feel that this promise is at risk of being broken. The consistent personal battles playing out at your meetings does nothing to better our schools, educate our students, and bring our budget to balance. We ask that you look beyond your own personal interests and work together as a united committee to truly work for the betterment of our school community. The lack of accountability and/or transparency has resonated throughout this administration's tenure, and your willingness to accept it has reached a critical mass. If a change in course is not made by this committee as constituted, we are ready to rally for change via the ballot box, be that during regularly scheduled elections or, if need be, in the recall process. We understand the challenges facing rural schools at this moment in history. We live those challenges every day. But it is imperative that this committee begin looking for real solutions or risk losing our community school district to state receivership. I have over 145 signatures of parents, school choice parents, community members, taxpayers, and they all stand with us and want to see action.
Do you have a copy for the school committee of that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I didn't make copies for everybody. I wasn't going to waste the school district's budget.
No.
chair.
Just
she can
one
share
to
it
the
with you.
chair.
Do you have the signatures too or not?
I'm sorry?
Are those with signatures?
So these
too?
are multiple petitions that went out through Warwick, Leiden, Northfield, and
We
Bernardston.
should have
So
those.
here's a copy.
We should- And that includes the signatures?
It does
Yeah.
not.
Thank you.
It only
no,
has
it only has
23
some of them.
Should
signatures.
have all of them?
I
Oh,
would
you
like,
want to go through and see who signed them?
Well, we just.
Because that would be the only response.
No.
Yes.
For the record, we should have all of them.
Sure.
if you don't have copies, you can get them to me later on if you need them.
I'm sorry, there's more signatures that want to be signed. So we'll have to get this to you at a later date.
Would you like this back?
Yep. Or we don't have data to prove to you, right? You'll have to wait till the next school committee meeting.
That was rude.
Excuse me.
Jeannie?
I have some concern that the letter was read tonight. So why are we doing more signatures after the letter's been read?
Because,
I know people are asking to sign it now.
with all due respect, we didn't put an end date on the petition. And it is a public petition that has been circulating.
We don't
Okay.
have a lawyer here.
All right.
Sure.
That's-
And the petition is just a statement, right? We are saying that we are ready to go to the ballot box and vote people out. That's all we're saying. We're not asking.
I'm not doubting any of
No,
this.
no, back and forth, please.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. We
I'm
just
not-
need to.
I'm not doubting any of it. I just question the legality of you reading the paper.
Sure.
And then going back and getting more signatures.
David, you had something to say?
In our package are norms for Pioneer School Committee meetings.
Sure.
I'm not addressing you, I'm addressing her.
Maybe.
Thank you.
David,
In
David,
our
could you-
package are
Could
the-
you read those? Could you read
Is
those?
this a test?
No, it's not a test. I'll read them if you don't want them.
I'll read them.
Okay.
And I mention
this
it
is
because
for-
we're all here for the same reason, because we care about education. And I'm going to try my hardest to remember that in my interactions with people that I disagree with.
And
I-
this
I
is
would-
not for just the school committee, it's for the audience too?
Democracy demands the individual use of one's best judgment as one perceives it, rather than succumbing to the will of another, whether it's resolving a matter of policy, fulfilling your fiduciary responsibilities, or providing leadership. We will all advocate for all students in the Pioneer Valley Regional School District. This is always our first order of business. The school committee members agree to thoroughly seek and support solutions that will provide the greatest benefit to the students. All school committee members should feel free to express their opinions and beliefs about issues. Discussions will be open and encourage candor and assume positive intent. School committee members agree to focus on issues rather than personalities. The committee will be open to new and veteran members' ideas and opinions. Respect each other and their opinions. Encourage debate and differing points of view, and speak with care and respect. We should debate issues, not one another. Build trust. Avoid words and actions that create a negative impression of an individual, the school committee, or the district. We should work to build trust between and among school committee members and the superintendent by treating everyone with dignity and respect, even in times of disagreement.
Thank you, David. That's something that was adopted by our committee
You're welcome.
back in the fall. Yes.
Did everybody on this committee get the letter from DOR today?
Am I done?
I believe so.
Anybody didn't get it? Anybody on the committee did not get the letter?
It came this afternoon, I checked.
I did not. Did you get one, John?
This copy, I just read.
Was it emailed this
It was
afternoon?
emailed to the chair.
It was,
Here only?
I got mine, but
When?
Do we have written
I don't,
copies?
I don't know.
Point of order.
Yes.
I think we're on citizen concerns.
We
I'd
are.
love to
We
be
are.
off them, but let's continue with the agenda, please.
Excuse me, This was a citizen concern.
That is a citizen's concern.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay,
Probably have copies made.
yeah.
Is it appropriate to let the public know this?
Well, let's talk.
Could she use the mic? We can't hear her.
Okay, it's right there. She's had her hand up for about 10 minutes, and I would think it might be getting tired. So would you like to speak? And then we'll at the end.
Hi, my name is Deborah Potee from Northfield. What I'd like to just say, I wish I had said this last week, but I guess I just want to provide an opportunity for all of you. I'm an elected official in town. I'm a library trustee. I know what it's like to serve on a committee. I know the time that it takes. I also know that there are times in our lives that it makes it harder for us to do the best job possible. And I just wanted to create space because there are many hard decisions that all of you at this table are going to have to make. And if you haven't been able to make a hard decision in the last 2 years and felt that you've been fully able to make those hard decisions, I would want you to consider right now those hard decisions that you have in front of you, your ability, your capacity to do this work, and to really consider whether it might be better for you to step aside and leave rather than waiting to be not elected again or recalled. In the town of Northfield, and I'll read this to you, and I don't think it's true for other towns. I think it's not true for Bernardston. But the town of Northfield, as of 2011, any holder of an elected office in the town of Northfield may be recalled and removed by the registered voters of said town as therein provided for reasons of lack of fitness, incompetence, neglect of duties, corruption, malfeasance, misfeasance, or violation of oath. I put that out there because I think I would have deep respect for anyone who said, I don't think I'm up for this. So I just want you to think about that. I appreciate the hard work that it takes to be on this committee. I think it would be very hard to be videotaped every month and to be up here with all these eyes on you. So I want to be respectful of that. And I want to thank you for your work. But I also think it would be important to consider if you really are up to doing the work.
Sharon, you had something?
Can we read this?
We can. I don't, have committee members gotten that?
I don't have it, and I'd like to see a copy before we discuss.
Okay.
It's appropriate under our budget, FY19 budget discussion. I think it would be most appropriate, rather than reading that into the record, to consider it when we were discussing the FY19 budget cuts, because it the letter, folks, identifies a fair amount of money that we're under budgeted. So, and we could chum the waters with that now, but it's germane to a matter that's up on the agenda later.
I believe that came as an attachment from the town administrator for the town of Bernardston. That's who I received the email from.
Okay.
Well, can somebody that has access to a copier make copies so we can have it?
Several copies. You talking about the DSL?
Yeah.
Right.
DLS.
Yeah.
DLS.
I didn't bring mine. I got home.
I've got one back, thank you.
Yeah. I knew it came, but
Oh, the fifth one is just the CC.
is this really? Okay. Oh, okay.
No, you're not.
Okay, maybe you can just make it short and say that, and just, sort of do an overview, and we'll discuss it more later. Is that a possibility?
Well, yeah, when we look at the budget, we're gonna.
It's, I think it needs to be put out. We probably need to make copies and get copies to
Okay,
everybody.
let's then,
That would come on, maybe under new business.
I'll just, okay, so when, okay, so people all have, okay, all right.
So maybe let's ask that question.
All right, let's wait for the full discussion.
See if everyone hears.
Okay. Does everyone have a copy of the DLS paper that was just handed out to us?
Are you asking in general?
I'm asking the audience if everyone has a DLS paper that was handed out. If not, I think Bob said he had some. He's handing them out now, okay. I think we need to discuss these after everyone has them, so they can follow us. All right, so let's, so they're aware of what we're talking about. So let's continue with our agenda. There were minutes of the 26th of October that need to be revoted. Does anyone care to make a motion? If anyone remembers what happened in October?
I
Deb.
make a motion to accept the minutes as well.
There's been a motion to accept it.
I
Is there a
second it.
second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? All right. Moving on.
Point of order, can we know what the change was, the reason for the revote?
I have no
The
idea.
attendance at the meeting was left off by mistake.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
This is, right, this is basic.
Thank you, Sue. So on Thursday, April 26th, we had our last meeting in Bernardston, and the minutes are before us. Had anyone have it? Yes, Deb.
I see the need for 2 corrections.
Okay.
On page 2, number 5, I believe, I'm sorry, number 4. I believe it should be 7/1/17 through 3/28/18. So I think it's just
Yeah,
a
it is.
misprint of.
Right. It's a fiscal year.
Yeah, and then
All right.
on page 3, under number 5, second sentence, memory of Wallace, it's supposed to be McLeod.
McLeod. Yep.
McCloud.
And anyone that knew Wally, he was a principal at Warwick Elementary for years. Okay. Is there any other corrections seen by anyone? Sue?
I have a question on page 1.
Uh-huh.
Deb, maybe you can help me with this. It says that under the paragraph that starts Lance Fritz, further down it says that you had discussed the process with the Heart Committee and the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. Is that accurate?
I did, well, I wouldn't say I had discussed the format with the Heart Committee, but it was given to the Heart Committee, and a member from the Heart Committee spoke with me on it.
So you didn't speak with the committee, but you spoke with a member?
I didn't, they approached me.
So you might want to say that you discussed the process with a member of the Heart Committee? That would feel better
That
to
would
me.
be fine.
And is the MASC accurate?
That was in regards to the training, and it was at the training where I asked several questions and received information at the training based on the questions that I had asked in regards to that situation.
Okay, so why don't we just add representatives at the training, whenever that was?
So you're suggesting deleting the Massachusetts
No, just-
Association of School
After
Committees?
that, just add Massachusetts Association of School Committee representatives at the Pioneer Training. And what was that, November 2017?
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else anyone has? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept them as corrected.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed? Unanimous. Warrants are here.
They've been down.
They have been done, okay.
Was
And
there
I'll-
more than one?
No. So I will circulate them this way. Revenue report is in front of us somewhere. And we have our treasurer with us tonight who is going to lead us through some of this financial information that we are so much in need of.
I'm just going to take it off of there because it's a lot easier for me. I'm too short to reach the mic. The treasurer presents a report to the committee on a monthly basis that shows what our budget is, how much we've received so far, and what the balance is of what we're expecting to receive by the end of the year. I don't know how much this has been utilized to this point as far as a management tool, but I have added a column to it to speak to the variance this month so that we can talk about why we're under our revenue budget going into FY19 and where those shortfalls came in. Currently, we've received $11,100,000 for round figures. We have $2,700,000, close to $800,000 coming in the month of May and June between our Chapter 70 and our town assessments that are due June 15th. There are some...
Sonia, just 1 second. When you
Go ahead.
cite a number, can you tell us where it is on the page?
So under totals, there is a total of $2,800,000 roughly that is due under the balance column in your treasurer's report.
So we have 2 papers from you.
We're speaking to your actual treasurer's report that's presented to you monthly that has the DOR and your grants. It should be in a paperclip packet that came from Pam. So this is nothing out of the ordinary. This is the normal revenue report.
I'm looking around.
For us, it is.
It is the Pioneer Valley Regional School District Revenue Report for April 2018.
I don't have
We don't have it.
I don't have it.
Pam prepared that, and Pat should have passed that packet out to all the school committee members.
We have a sheet that says cash flow at the top.
Nope, this
And
is
we
your,
have a sheet that
this is
says
your
financial
monthly
overview.
revenue reports. They're right here, Pat. They need to be passed around to the members.
I didn't know what they
Hand them
were.
out.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No wonder we look lost.
1, 2, 3. All right.
I apologize about that. I didn't realize they hadn't
Okay.
been passed out. I wondered why the stack was
I
sitting
didn't
there.
realize they were here.
There's a lot of paper.
It's okay.
I see that.
Okay, these are for students. David, did you get one? I did. Okay, is everyone?
I don't have one,
You
Jen
don't have
doesn't have
one?
one.
All right, I think maybe they're, why don't you grab one of those? Okay.
Does everybody have it
Are we all
now?
set now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll notice this is normally in portrait format. I made it landscape to add in some explanation. So it looks a little different, but it's the same thing you guys get every month. The balance of what we're going to receive in May and June is roughly $2.8 million. Once again, that is our town assessments, our Chapter 70, and our remaining portion of our state aid from, transportation reimbursement from the state. And we also get monthly charter reimbursement, but all those are part of our Chapter 70. The main variances, if you look at the total at the bottom, it's 241, close to 242,000. Ruth and the school committee over budgeted our transportation reimbursement revenue for FY18. From what I understand, once again, I've only been here a short 4 months, so I've tried to soak up as much of this as I can and be completely unbiased in the whole situation. In the past, this has been budgeted at 50%. That budget had been complied with in FY17, but in FY18, it was asked to be raised to 65% of our transportation budget, which is where the shortfall has come into play, is the 15% of our transportation budget that the state did not reimburse us for. In addition, there is some excess revenue that we were not expecting from school choice and other funds totaling $61,000. That nets to your $242,000 deficit, which is also listed on another sheet of paper that I've handed out as sort of a summary that the audience also has. So we under budget our charter school reimbursement. We were conservative in that, so that helped us. If we didn't have that, we would be looking at a $300,000 deficit just in our revenue. So that's where we're at with revenue. And we'll speak to the expenses and the rest of the sheet when we come to those in the agenda. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I've lost my papers. So expenditure report, do you want to speak to that? Or is that pretty self-explanatory? Okay. Warrants have been around. School lunch reports, those were provided. Gail, do you have anything to say about school lunch?
Yeah.
I have prepared more in-detailed school lunch reports that I took off of this agenda due to the fact that the agenda was already very long. So I will bring those to you next month. These are the usual lunch reports that we prepare. And just to remind you that the deficit is still being carried in these when you look at them. I've attended 3 town meetings out of 4 so far, and each of those 3 towns has voted to pay money to pay off the deficit that the district has accumulated for 12 years at least. And I can tell you, and that will be in more detail next month, that right now we are breaking even if you don't count the deficit that's already in here from the course of years.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you, Gail.
This should be a time to applaud.
Yeah, yes, it should be a time to applaud. That's been a lot of work, and we've worked on that for a long time. So, thank you. Yes, David.
A meeting I attended with, I don't remember if it was Department of Revenue, our own auditors. By the way, it was our own auditors that we met with, not as reported that it was the state auditors that caused us to take action last week. That was our own internal auditors.
Okay. That was it?
That's enough.
That's enough, I understand. Students, we have 2 of you guys.
Yes, so about 2 weeks ago now, we had our prom at the log cabin with the theme of a starry night. The students really seemed to love it, the beautiful venue that we had there, and we'd also like to give a big thank you to the volunteers who really made it a fun and safe environment where everyone had fun and no one got in any trouble. Also last Friday, a group of 7 Envirothon members went to Blackstone River and Canal Heritage State Park to compete against other schools. The Envirothon team ended up being ranked 3rd overall in the state, placing 3rd in wildlife, 2nd in forestry, and 4th in soils. And we couldn't have done it without the amazing help from our Envirothon coach, Penny Betzel. Ms. Betzel's been writing grants like crazy and working day and night to provide us with amazing tools and resources to succeed, and also provide such a fun and safe atmosphere where people can get excited and be proud of what we are learning and accomplishing. Even through all these rough times we are experiencing, it's really great, to have committed and persevering staff who's working really hard to give us the best education they can with what they are given.
Okay, the Memorial Day Parade is this Monday, taking place in Bernardston. We step off with the 4-leaf clover, and the high school band will be playing. We are just missing a couple seniors because of the senior trip, but it should be a nice day, and we're looking forward to it. Graduation is also quickly approaching. June 1st is graduation. The seniors are finishing up exams. It should be done tomorrow, and the senior farewell is next Thursday along with their award ceremony. And students are looking forward to that. So that's an all-school assembly where there's a senior slideshow and senior wishes, and we get to say goodbye as a whole school, which is always really, really nice. I think that is it.
Actually, also, Jacob Pelton, a member of our track team, made Western Mass in pole vault. Was the champ of pole vault piece in Western Mass.
He cleared 12.
Is that it? So
Yeah.
we need to thank Coach Bell, who's sitting right there as a member of our school committee for that. He coaches pole vaulting and has done a wonderful job with a lot of kids throughout the year, so thanks, Jim. And that Envirothon thing is fantastic. Kids learn a lot, they have a fantastic time, and it would be nice if that got into the paper. Just saying.
Someone else is doing it. I believe it is.
Good, that's great.
I believe
Jeannie?
it is on their newsletter.
It is in the newsletter.
Because I checked that out today,
Yeah.
along with their ultimate team that placed first in the state for their division.
That was great. We forgot to mention that one. So thank you very, very much. I was reminded that we skipped over the expenditure report, and that was provided today. Do you want to speak to that?
The expenditure report would have come from Brenda.
I'm not sure. I've got so much paper here. I'm not sure what I've got.
I'm not sure if the expenditure report was given. Our accounts payable clerk, who has provided that in the past, is on vacation this week, but I think you guys have it in
It's
pink.
on-
Okay.
It's on pink.
So the pink copy that you guys have in front of you is in line with what is currently in our Budget Sense accounting software. This shows us with encumbered expenses that are expected to be spent based on POs that were submitted and approved, that we will be over budget $145,000 at the end of the year on the expense side. However, another item that was not budgeted for was our interest on the RAN, which is $11,900 that it will be due with our $1.2 million RAN on June 30th. That increases the over expenditure of our expense budget to $157,000 at the end of the year. If you add that to the $242,000 that I gave you guys in revenue, we are looking at a $399,000 deficit, again, in just your general fund. And if you guys, all the audience actually has a financial review from me, you will see those two numbers that I just discussed that add up to that $399,000 deficit. That added to our deficit last year of $639,777 that the detail is broken out for you. General fund, school lunch, and circuit breaker. I know you guys were looking for that information last week and it wasn't provided, so I hope this helps you guys. We're looking at a total deficit at the end of June 30th, 2018 of $1,060,000. Now, I did include in that a $20,000 school lunch deficit, which is what is currently in Budget Sense. However, I believe the break even is an analysis that Gail has worked with our school lunch to know where that's actually going to be at the end of the year. So we may be better off by the $20,000. I'm using the figures that we currently have in front of us. My comment as far as those over expenditures are things that I think have been beaten over the head quite a few times, and I think it's very important that the school committee works with the incumbent superintendent along with the incumbent business manager as well as your administrators and all of your staff to make sure that we are correctly budgeting, as Gail mentioned, our health and life, which continues to be under budgeted, teacher salaries, substitutes, and maintenance. And if these things aren't properly budgeted, something that I can't enforce enough, as it happens in towns and has not happened within the school and the committee for a couple of years from my understanding. If we know we have an emergency, or we know we have to hire another support staff for a student that comes in the middle of the year, we need to be looking at our budget and doing budget transfers when those things happen, so we're not trying to manage a budget at the 11th hour to come up with $150,000. So I think that's something that we really need to work on as a district in whole with everybody that's involved.
Can I just say how much I really look forward to doing that with you, Tanya?
She has the figures we've been after for a long time.
Here it is. Pat, I had a question.
David.
Looking at the consolidated expenditure, looking at the consolidated expenditure report, I believe this loan debt, and next to the last line is the technology debt. And that is in fact funded not by the assessment, but by a supplemental appropriations, and not in my mind part of the general fund. But the only question I have, since it's represented here, is the income, is the revenue represented to offset it?
Yes. So currently that technology debt has been funded in the general fund, and that's why you're seeing it here as an expenditure against that. The over expenditure on that interest line is not only, so the technology debt interest was what was budgeted, the $2,148. But again, there was interest on our RAN that we didn't pay until July 14th, which was due last June 30th. So not only was it paid late, but the interest was not budgeted for, and if it was budgeted for in FY17, it was not properly encumbered to carry forward to FY18's budget. So you see a $7,000 deficit for that interest. No, interest rates have gone up, therefore interest this year is $11,940. We know what that interest is going to be when we pull those RANs based on the interest rate and number of days that is outstanding. And that should have been budgeted. So that's why there's an additional $11,900 on top of the $145 contributing to the expenditure deficit for FY18.
Yeah, just in the future, technology debt and capital projects and things of that sort. I mean, we should not be commingling that money in our books.
I will be setting up a fund specifically for the last technology borrowing, so that it's not, when the money comes in from the schools, it'll go into its own fund, and when the money goes out, it will come out of that same fund. Okay. But in FY18, it was not set up as such.
Gotcha.
And at this point in the year, it's already been taken care of, so I'm netting those two together.
And so on the revenue report, the third line down is the technology debt, so we did pick up that offsetting revenue.
And even if it was in its own fund, that $7,000 now going to be $18,000 deficit would become a deficit of the town, whether it was in the general fund or a special revenue fund.
Sure. But, well, my concern is that things like the town's appropriating money to retire the debt are restricted funds and should not be should not be represented to anybody that's available for anything else.
Okay. Is there any old business? I see none on the agenda. Is there anything that anyone else has to say? All right, moving on. New business to accept the PVREA donation. Is there someone that wants to speak to that? Ariel, do I see your hand up?
I backed up and filed here. I couldn't find you before. Here, can you do this instead? Sorry. Is this in addition? It is in addition, so. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So I'm presenting this. It's a check, but I do have something that I'd like to read. It's okay. Explaining what it is. Hi, I'm Ariel Leroux. I'm an English teacher here at the high school. I've been here for 12 years, and I'm also the president of the PVREA. You've heard from me before. So, on behalf of the teachers of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District, the PVREA would like to present to you funds in the amount of $515 raised on Sunday, May 20th, thanks to the extended generosity of community members and passersby alike. This money was, hold on a second, raised to supplement the district's ability to pay for substitute teachers. These funds are offered with the stipulation that they only be used to pay for substitutes and not to make up for any deficit or used for any other purpose. It's not much, but it can cover a few for when a teacher is out sick, has the opportunity for no-cost professional development, or would like to take students on a field trip for curricular enrichment. The last two having been denied on the basis that there is no money for a substitute, which are losses to the education of students. Teachers have legitimate reason to be out of school, and both sick leave and professional development are afforded in the contract. We are dedicated to supporting the needs of our students. Being assigned a study hall when curricular work is available, but there is no adult to oversee the class, does not meet the needs of our students. Field trips enrich the curriculum and build bonds between students and teachers. So much has been lost, and as teachers will spend money from their own pockets to buy supplies, though they shouldn't have to, teachers will find a way to provide for their students. Teachers are the people on the ground who are committed to the work of educating young people. Teachers do what they must to serve students, even while bearing the weight of heavier burden and facing the acts of cost-cutting. We appreciate that you have serious decisions to make and that the financial situation of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District is at a crucial turning point. The teachers of the PVRSD can be a part of the solution in ways other than losing our jobs. While we respect that the principals have oversight of the schools, we'd like to suggest that looking at things from different perspectives could potentially offer some fresh ideas. Ideas of how cuts can be managed in ways that might open the door for a collaborative educational mission while saving money and promoting a radical shift toward healing and attracting more students to the Pioneer District again. PVRSD could in reality be a pioneer in reforming school structure. If you would like more information or would perhaps like to host a brainstorming session involving more of the district stakeholders, please let me know. I will support you in organizing that effort. And the sheet that Lisa Armstrong is going to hand out is some recommendations from one of the members of the community, Ken Mullen, who is a teacher here at the high school. And it is a sampling. There are many more that have been circulating around and that we would appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel.
We have to make a motion to accept the donation instead of the special revenue fund for that. Okay. Fund.
You want me to table while you do that?
Sharon?
I'll make a motion, we accept the donation from the Pine Valley Teachers Association. $595.
Because I currently have $80 in my safe that was donated.
With thanks.
Total of $595.
Is this check $515?
It is $515.
Right, I have $80 in my safe that was given to me by Ken Mullen that he collected, but I advised him that we had to accept that donation, so we need to accept the full amount of $595 to set up a special donation account for that amount.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
With
I
great
think
thanks.
it's unanimous. I feel it's really sad that the teachers had to do this. I am so grateful that they did, and I think it sent a message to a lot of people. And I thank you so, so much for spending all day Sunday out there stopping cars and talking to people. And I feel really unhappy that it had to happen, but thrilled that it did. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you for accepting our small donation.
It may be small in dollars, but it's a big thing other than dollars, so thanks.
That was the intention.
update from DESI, DOR, and our attorney on what we're doing to start to remedy the problem. I thought our attorney was going to be here tonight to help us, but he isn't, so we'll try to plunder through this ourselves. I have a phone call set up with DESI on Tuesday of next week. I've got to set up, it's either at noon or at 2 o'clock, I'm not sure which. She's trying to tell me something with the camera. Oh, somebody behind me. Anyhow, so that's what we're doing with that. We talked to DOR. I have talked to our legislators, and they are formatting some kind of a bill to help us with our loan. Mary Jane Handy asked that we extend that amount from 1 million to 2, just in case something popped up, we wouldn't be caught. Trying to remember all the things that have happened in the last week. I've been in conversation with our attorney several times. I think things are moving along, but very slowly, and I'll see what happens after I talk to DESI on Tuesday. We've had to connect with lots of different groups, and I think everybody is working together, and I've heard back from Paul Marks, I believe, that it was, or Suzanne Whips, or both of them. I can't remember. I've gotten so many emails lately that I can't keep myself straight. But it seems like everybody's working together, helping us through this, and we will persevere. Our attorney has been in conversation with everybody, and then and he's helping us through all this. So we'll keep you posted when anything different happens. Is there any questions? Yes. Okay. Yes.
This paper from the DLS may help explain.
Okay. That would be good.
Some of the difficult situations we've been in. We don't have to read it to you. You've got it. You can read it yourself, and you'll perhaps understand. This is so transparent. It's something we've needed for a long time. So. I'll read one paragraph. Balancing the district's fiscal year 2019 budget with an adequate level of service will be a significant challenge. The school district has approved fiscal year 2019 operating budget of $14,077,676 to the member towns, which reflects just a $10,000 increase from 2018 budget. Therefore, draconian budget cuts, spending freezes, and options such as changes in health insurance benefit and shared services will need to be considered to avoid negative impacts on the funds available to finance district instructional programs.
I think a lot of your questions that everybody has had tonight will be answered if you read this through. It says a lot without us saying a lot. I think you can get a lot more out of this by just reading this document. And Tanya?
So I just want to touch base on a couple things that weren't necessarily on the agenda, but are part of us making some ramifications to not only meet what we need to have in our budget, but also some of the things that we should be considering looking at when we're budgeting moving forward. First of all, I did pass out just to the school committee an updated cash flow. We have another bank account that was not listed on here. It's a small one when I did this last week. Originally, we had $14,000 that we roughly needed in additional revenue to meet our RAN obligation for June 30th. With the additional $51,000 that will be in our separate TD bank account at the end of the year, we will move into FY19 with $24,776, which puts us at an expected cash need for the month of July of $934,000 instead of the $959 that was previously mentioned. In addition to that, I had conversations with Mary Jane Handy this week, and emails with a gentleman by the last name of Aragal. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly or not. And he is entertaining the idea with the district as well of a advance of local aid. I have to have further conversations to find out if that's a monthly advance or whatnot, but that could put us at a potential need of only $600,000 in the month of July if they were to give that to us on July 1st instead of July 30th. So this is a work in progress. Like I said, I think it's really important that we work as, administrative staff and committee and whatnot to, make that need the least amount possible, because we don't want to put ourselves in any more debt than we need to be in. I know Mary Jane has suggested the $2 million loan from the state to help us from a cash flow perspective. We really only need the $1 million, so it's going to be a matter of how we facilitate that in our budget too, because the repayment of that will then need to be added to the budget over however many years, and that could potentially be an extra $100,000 a year that we may or may not need. So I think those discussions will be ongoing with what our real need is, and I think the state would probably only give us what we really need to meet our needs and make sure that we can function on a monthly basis. David, did you have a question?
Yeah, Mary Jane called me today, and we spoke about some FY19 issues, like being under budgeted $500,000 in health insurance for 19, being in the current fiscal year, $50,000 of additional losses to the 400 are expected if substitute teacher line just plays out as it always has in the past. One thing she told me is because we are a regional school that DESE, not Department of Revenue, is handling our case. There's plenty of Department of Revenue involvement. Representative Marks has been contacted by DESE to initiate special legislation. And I disagree with Tanya on the amount of borrowing. And here's my thinking. You got a cash flow that shows that if we scrape down every nickel, we meet the RAND payment and we're out of money. So at that point, if we borrow $2 million, we'll have $1 million of it to fill the pothole of our losses to date, because we've taken money we don't have and paid bills. So the first $1 million is just to bring us back to make us whole from a cash flow perspective for money we didn't have that we spent, which we have to stop doing. Then we always borrowed $1 million or more as working capital. We're not bankable. Lost 400,000 or 450 this year, 360 last year. Banks will smile, if not laugh, if we go there. So this is our chance. It takes special legislation. We will be under an oversight board, and I guess I rise to speak to say that borrowed money is not income. We are not going to do anything new with it. It's a tool that we need in order to stay in business. We can't fail to pay health insurance. We can't fail to pay our teachers. And if we run too close to the line and go bad on a debt or a paycheck or a health insurance payment, in our financial condition, nobody's going to bail us out. So
I think the idea of the $1 million is that puts us to a point where we're collecting our assessments and paying our bills in the manner that funding is coming in. So further discussions can be had with Mary Jane about that amount. I do want to speak to some of the lines that David just mentioned in the budget, as I did my own analysis, which not everyone has in front of you because it's 6 pages, and it's everything I've done is from Budget Sense. I haven't created anything on my own. These are real numbers, they're reliable, and I've gone into the accounts to make sure that the activity in these accounts really belongs to these accounts too, because I know that's been an issue in the past.
Are you referencing a document we have or just one you have?
We don't have.
Okay.
So this is just, I downloaded a operating statement that gives me line by line tuition and revenues, but what I did is I took FY18's actual, where we're going to be at the end of the year, which you do have in your expenditure report, and I compared that to the FY19 budget to see, are we funding lines to the extent that we're actually currently expending, because I think that's something that kind of gets overlooked because we start budgeting in December and we don't know where we're actually going to be in the end of the year. This is a case for more conservative budgeting rather than trying to be right tight at the line. But the items that the administrators did mention in the budget as far as necessary additions are underfunded health insurance. We were consistently given numbers from Suzanne, our payroll administrator, as well as our accounts payable clerk, to what that true number needed to be, and they went back to the table with the same number. So we do need an additional $371,000 in that health and life insurance line. With that being said, if there are staff cuts, then that goes down with that. Some of the other lines that they mentioned too, when I went through my analysis, once again, substitutes continue to be under budgeted. If you have staff that are allowed so many sick days and so many personal days, we need to budget to our exposure. We can't budget and think that these teachers are only going to take 50% of their time earned. I think it's very important to do that, not only on the substitute line, but also in the health and life insurance line. And I think that's where I know that's where we got hurt in 2018. We only budgeted for 2 extra PPO plans and 2 HMO plans, but we have an exposure of 50 employees that are not currently on our plan. And at any given time, those employees could have a change of status that allows them to sign up for health insurance out of open enrollment. And we need to look at what other districts and other towns are doing to budget for that exposure. Is it 25%? Is it 50%? Is it 75%? Because if we had 13 people come on our health insurance plan this year, which meant we had 9 people at approximately $20,000, $16,000 to $20,000 a year, depending on their plan, come on our budget, which accounts for the $150,000 over expenditure in our health insurance line. So I think that's something that the committee needs to be asking, and the business manager and superintendent need to, definitely needs to address. But that's why that health and life insurance line continues to be under budgeted, because we have exposure in the teachers' contracts that we're not fully budgeting for. So I just wanted you guys to understand why that has happened, I guess. And a couple of the other lines I noticed that continue to be the same across the board with all the schools with some maintenance. We don't have a reserve fund. So if we have a plumbing emergency or anything like that, heating emergency, and it's not within our current year budget, we're overexpending those lines. And that was the other line that I noticed kind of across the board between the schools that was over budgeted. So we need to start, once again, doing budget transfers when those things happen, looking where we can pull money from that doesn't necessarily need to be spent, as well as getting to a point where we have E&D and we can set up a reserve fund to cover these emergency expenses so that we don't have to cut essential services to cover emergency situations.
Yes.
Frank Rivera. I wanted to go.
Can you speak in? Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to go back to this DLS thing, and you made comment that all we had to do was really read this and answer a lot of our questions. But for me, and maybe for other people as well, it really begs the question: how is this committee and let's say the superintendent that is to be hired? What is it that, there's obviously going to have to be some cuts, or even if you do get a loan. And now with the administrators basically abdicating their role in that process, maybe in my mind, maybe that should have happened much earlier to make a stand then. So I think it's a little late right now. And so, sitting here, knowing that this committee, how could I say it delicately, hasn't really either understood the process or at least challenged what has happened before, how can I leave here feeling comfortable that we're going to know that you're going to be able to let go X amount of teachers, whatever else needs to be done in order to come to terms with the budget that we can afford. I haven't, I don't know, what is the expectation of your hiring of the superintendent and of the business manager? I think we really need to have some hard answers, and we need to see a committee that's prepared to provide something that we can feel comfortable about going forward. Thank you.
Would any committee member like to speak to that? Sue?
Do you want me to speak to that?
Sure.
Do you want me to go up there? Or You're fine, just speak. Okay. That was amazing, wasn't it? Sound effects and everything. I'm gonna speak to the future rather than to the past.
Take it right off. That's working.
Okay. Better? All right. But what I said was I'm going to speak to the future instead of the past, because I'm looking forward to the future. I'm a member of the school committee and a member of the Heart Committee. And the Heart Committee was called together by our towns to try to help work towards sustainable solutions for our district. We did get a grant for that. We've been struggling with what to do with that grant because at the same time that we got a $20,000 grant, Gil Montague got a $110,000 grant for looking at very similar things. And so we've been trying to make the best choices for our district with those funds. We put out an RFP that didn't get a lot of response. In the time that it's taken us to regroup, Gil Montague has distributed their own RFP. So I went to a meeting on Tuesday in the Gil Montague district with folks from Gil Montague and from Tech. And I was the pioneer rep at Pat's request. And they're in the process of beginning to address the questions that many of our rural districts have about sustainability. So they are going to be looking at things like they're paying NESDEC $4,000 to do enrollment projections for all of our towns, looking at a 10-year trend. Where have we been? Where are we going? What can we expect? They're also looking at ways to share services, ways to be creative and think outside the box. We have a very similar proposal that the Heart Committee has been in the process of preparing to put out. We prepared a proposal that looks at questions that we think our community needs clear answers to, like what happens if you close a school? What happens if you close 2 schools? What does it mean to share services? How does that work? What do you save really? What does it mean to try to have collaborative special ed programs so that we don't have to pay the cost of sending so many of our children to very expensive outside placements? Our grants were so similar, and having met the consultants who are working with Gil Montague, one of whom is Steve Hemman, who's been with us here before. He's the Vice Executive Director, I think, of MARS, the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools. The other is Mark Abrahams. He's a CPA. He's a consultant who's worked with Steve for a long time. They've worked in many districts looking at very similar challenges to us. So what I ended up doing was speaking with the Northfield Select Board and the Warwick Select Board, our towns went in on this grant together. And so I spoke with Tracy, and she said, you know, you don't have to do a full RFP. You could just have an interdisciplinary agreement, interdistrict agreement with Gil-Montague to pool your money and work with these consultants to answer these mutual questions. That could happen very quickly. So I spoke with the consultants, I spoke with Pat, and I spoke with Michael Sullivan. I spoke with Michelle, the chair of the Heart Committee, just about the process. We have another Heart Committee coming up this week. What this could mean is that we could pretty immediately have access to some expertise to run stakeholder meetings for us, where we would all have a chance to get our questions answered and our concerns raised, where we could have, for instance, the way that I discovered Steve Hammond was I discovered a study that had been done by their group online, funded by the legislature, looking at how are rural districts staffing their admin teams and who's doing what. Because our rural districts are very diverse, and people do all kinds of different things and wear all kinds of different hats, and small towns cobble things together in different ways. So they have a lot of experience just looking at what's possible there. I'll give you one example of what I came away with when talking with this group of people. We on this committee have talked about, well, we have choice students from Irving, but we only get paid $5,000 for those students. Whereas Gil-Montague has a tuition agreement with Irving, and they get paid the full cost to school a student. And so Steve Hammond said, well, you know, you can have more than one agreement with more than one high school. And we did not know that, I don't think, that, you know, we could say to Irving, you know, in the future, we would like to negotiate for the cost of educating students that want to come here, because they don't have their own high school. So it's just one example of ways that we could be thinking smarter and making changes, potentially with some good expertise. So the Heart Committee will meet again this coming Wednesday, and we hope to make some plans to support the district at this time when we have so many questions. One of the things that was suggested to me that they could offer, with one of the consultants being a CPA who works with a lot of districts, who has actually been contracted by DESE to be a financial overseer for districts in trouble, said to me, you know, I could help you restructure your F-19 budget. We could help you think about what are the bare bones administrator roles you need to run this district, and help you talk to your towns about what's needed and how to pay for that. And I want to say that I really hear clearly from so many people that our towns want a chance to come back at this budget and reclaim our schools and build our future together. And I hope we get a chance to do that.
I personally know and actually got all of my training for my certified governmental accounting certification in the state of Massachusetts from Mark Abrams, and he is a phenomenal man. He's a phenomenal CPA, and I can also speak to the work because he has been called into multiple districts to help, and he does so by doing the things that I spoke of, making sure that the staff, the committees, the administrators, and everybody is on the same page with making changes and implementing those changes. So you spoke to the administration staff, which I think is a very good point. David and I actually spoke about this in the other day when I proposed to him what I was going to present tonight and make sure that it was okay. And when I did an analysis on the per cost student, which you guys, or cost per pupil that you guys also have on the sheet that I distributed to you, the cost per student for our direct district administration, which is our zero fund, so to speak, within the general fund, is $4,700 per student. And that at $3,000 is high, according to Mary Jane Handy. So I think what you're talking to is, you know, definitely something that needs to be looked at. I know we've already shared principals between two schools. So those decisions are hard to make. You know, one of the things that I spoke with David about as well, and I think is something that could be looked at and might be recommended, is you have classes with 5 kids in them. We should be hiring teachers that are certified to teach multiple, you know, courses so that we can have the offerings for these students, but not be spending $18,000 average per student in our district and up to $24,000 at Leiden. Those per pupil costs are way above the state's average, and on top of managing the current budget, we also should be looking at that per pupil cost and trying to get down to a manageable per pupil cost that's in line with other rural districts in the state as well when we're making these decisions and asking for consultations.
Address that. Martha.
I just had a question. I know. Here, Martha. Let me just hand you this.
I know Sue and Tanya have both spoken of getting, through DESE, I believe, and through the Heart Committee, you spoke of getting advice and help from
Grant, so we have $20,000 to
right,
hire.
to hire expertise. Now, speaking of expertise, my understanding was when we voted at the last meeting to apply for the loan of $1 million, which now might be $2 million. Yeah. Along with that, we would have oversight from the state, from Department of Revenue, from DESE. So are we going to have, is that going to be expertise that will be going to the administrative staff only? Will the school committee have a chance to be meeting with an actual human being that people that you are all talking to regarding this? Or how do you think that works?
I have spoken, hear me? I have spoken to Mary Jane Handy of DOR, and she would like to meet with a full committee. And she also, I believe, spoke of having somebody from DESE also come at the same time. So okay. I think in the,
that's what the letter says.
Yeah.
They
within
meet with the select boards, the school committee.
Staff, yeah.
Well, it says it right at the beginning
Does it?
of the letter.
Okay. I can't remember.
Oh.
It seemed like a lot of
Sorry, I haven't read
stakeholders that
that.
she was asking, but yes, indeed, we will
Okay.
be able to meet with a lot of those people. And I'm not sure how, if Mars is getting involved in it or not, but I know DESE and Department of Revenue Local Services are.
Okay, good.
So we need, I will be speaking to, did she say in that letter, Sue, when they wanted to, I think it was relatively soon.
It better be.
Yeah.
Okay, I
That
didn't
was
read
one
the
thing
whole
that
letter,
I think
so.
we need to address tonight.
Okay.
I'll read the last paragraph.
Okay, please do that.
I would welcome the opportunity to come and discuss our concerns further at a joint meeting of DESE, the superintendent, school committee, and boards of selectmen of member towns. Please provide me with dates for such a discussion that work for all bodies, and I will arrange my schedule accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
So, since that was just read, we need to think about what night that might work. For us, Thursday nights seem to be the better night. How is that with local select boards that are here?
I'd like to read what the memo that Bernardston sent to you today.
All right, I haven't been home to read my email, so I don't know.
I write on behalf of the Bernardston Select Board, who are in receipt of the letter from Mary Jane Handy, Director of Accounts of DLS, State Department of Revenue, addressed to PVRS Superintendent Miller. The board requests you to arrange for 3 dates and times in June from which to choose amenable to all parties referenced in Ms. Handy's letter. I won't read the rest of it. And then there's also one from Warwick, from their chair, Doc Prune. As chair of the Board of Selectmen in Warwick, I'd very much appreciate meeting with Ms. Handy or some other DOR representative. And Northfield also sent an email directly to Mary Jane saying, if the school committee doesn't do it, we will.
I haven't been home to see my emails, so I hadn't received that. So we, as I started to say, we need to think of some dates that would work, that we can throw out to the select boards. And we will make that available to our superintendent to see whether she would be available at that point. Yes. So we want to talk number 6. Okay. Thursdays seem to be better, is that correct for people? But we had not make all the dates on Thursday because that may be a time that other people cannot meet. Does it sound right?
Right. Well, we need to keep in mind graduations at the elementary school.
Exactly.
Band concerts and
exactly.
So forth. So
Those dates were listed on the last minute.
Yeah, I think they're listed on these.
It is important, yeah.
Very important.
So I'm looking in June because that's what Mary Jane had said.
I wish I had that sheet.
We have, and I'm asking the elementary administrators and Pioneer administrators to tell us if there's stuff going on the 7th or the 14th. Is there anything going on in the elementary schools? No?
New England ingenuity.
What we're gonna get.
Thank you, whoever did that. Principals, is there anything going on either the 7th or the 14th of June in your schools?
Not in Bernardston or White.
Okay, how about Northfield or Warwick? Okay, so either of those dates seem like that would work.
So June.
If you have anything to say, can you please come up to the microphone because we can't hear? Yes, Lynn.
Sorry, I really appreciate you taking, a question, really is what it is. The first thing is a comment, though, that I don't feel like the administrators abdicated a responsibility of any sort. I really want to commend them for taking on a responsibility that was given to them. Having said that, my next question is, now that you have their recommendations, it would be really, I can't overstate how helpful it would be to know what your time frame is for making these decisions. I know I'm not alone in feeling extraordinarily anxious all day, every day, while trying to do my best job in the classroom. I feel like families as well are feeling a bit on edge and would like to have some sense of a time frame as to when decisions will be made about the future of the schools in the district. So that's a request. Thank you.
I believe that's on our agenda. We'll be addressing it in just a few minutes. All right? As we read down through, it says the recommendations for financial cuts and vote. So that will be happening. Right now, we're trying to come up with dates to meet with Mary Jane and her people.
Couldn't we let
Desi.
staff take care of this this is the only time the school committee gets to talk about really important stuff, and there's other ways to schedule a meeting than sitting here tonight. I know it's important, but we have got more important work than agreeing on 3 meeting dates with the DOR. Staff can lead that charge. There are computer calendar tools, there are all kinds of ways to do this. But not tonight. We need to talk about these cuts to answer the question. I would be very uncomfortable making final decisions tonight, but the committee needs to talk. The committee, no one individual of the committee can make this decision. We have to use our best efforts, and mine are not at 10 o'clock at night. I would rather be talking about cuts now.
Sharon?
I think with everybody here and we're on, I think it wouldn't take long just to, put in a couple of dates.
Our problem with leaving it up to administration is it just hasn't happened. So I would like to do it now, have it happen, set the dates, call people, and if we can do it in 2 or 3 minutes, we've already figured out that those 2 dates are available. I would like to move on. Robin, you had something? 7th and 14th. 7th and
I was just going to say that the district has provided all of the committee members with a Gmail address, and so we have a shared calendar that is attached to that.
Well, let's just say. So we have 7:14. Do we want to figure out selectmen's meetings are what nights?
We can change them.
Okay.
Let's add 21 and be done. We have 3.
Northfield is Tuesday. Bernardston is Wednesday. I can't speak for
Warwick is what night? Monday?
Yes.
Monday. All right. So
Every
Thursday. So Thursday seems right. So let's do 7:14, 21. 21 is supposed to be our school committee meeting, but we can move that to the next month, next week if we have to.
It is the 28th.
Oh, it is the 28th?
So we're fine.
All right.
7/14/21.
28. Yep, okay.
Those are Thursdays.
All 3 Thursdays. All right?
Good.
Okay. Do you have something new? Okay. Quickly, please.
I guess I'm just curious, are you planning on making decisions tonight based on the administrator's suggestions right now? Is that the plan?
That is the plan.
Can I make a request?
You can.
To me, if these good folks have come up with a variety of different options, I think it might behoove us to hear what the options are, receive feedback in a week, and then come back and try to make a vote. I think it's unbelievable to me that these folks can have different ideas, and I know that they do, and that you can sit there, debate quickly or take a long time perhaps, and then make a decision without the feedback from all of these citizens and all the people who aren't here. I don't understand that. And maybe it's just the way I function in the world, but how can you do that without citizen input? I don't understand. What I would imagine would happen, you'd have maybe 3 plans that you decide on, and then you receive feedback, and then a vote happens based upon what people, the citizens, how we feel. That's just my 2 cents.
I can understand how uncomfortable this probably is for a lot of people sitting here tonight. Once again, I'm completely unbiased. I work here as a treasurer. I don't live in this community. I do have children in school. I think everyone in this room understands that June 1st is a deadline for cutting staff. So we literally, not we, the committee and the administrative staff are up against a week deadline to make any staff cuts that may or may not happen if that is part of the option. I'm not backing, supporting, or going against any of these decisions that, have been come up with or options, but I think that needs to be put out there that that is a deadline that this committee and the administration are up against right now.
All right, so we have those 3 dates, so we're all set with that.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question for Tanya that relates to the cost per pupil analysis she did.
So I can talk about it.
So not now?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I have a question, though.
All right, so Tanya has suggested, there's lights. Tanya has suggested that we move item number 6 before we discuss the admin team's recommendation, so we will do that. Is that all right with the committee? Yes, no?
Yeah, we don't know where mine is. We don't know.
I guess it is.
I guess.
All right.
The cuts, do you have?
I just asked for that because in order for you guys to look at decisions,
Be quiet, she's talking.
it was one of the 2 sheets that was sitting at the table when you first sat down. It says financial overview and per pupil cost analysis provided by the treasurer. So it's the same sheet that had the total deficit. on it.
The dog ate mine. See how many we got?
I know. The last time.
They're not dated, they're today.
Oh, good point.
Has everybody found it?
If not, could you guys share? So understanding what I took away from last week's meeting, once again, I felt the need to kind of step up to the plate and help give not only the committee, but the community some understanding of the decisions that are on the table right now, and give you guys some good financial figures to try to make these decisions on, because I understand that the reporting and transparency has been part of the troubles of actually trying to make decisions throughout this year and the prior year. So unfortunately, the committee can try to make decisions, but if they don't have the financial information in front of them and the tools to make those decisions, it's very hard to manage a budget when you don't know what's going on. So one of the things I know that was discussed, and it's not, it's a touchy subject, is closing of some schools to save costs, merge classrooms, etc. So I went through and did a cost per pupil across the district, and I also did a average cost per pupil for the entire district-wide. The way that I came up with this is every school has their own budget, as well as we have a district administration budget, we have a special needs budget, and a shared service budget. I took the individual school's budget divided by the number of students that that school has and added in the cost per pupil for those other three departments to come up with this average. This may not be to the penny. It is a very high level cost per pupil analysis, but it's a place for the committee and the community to start at looking at where our expenses are. As you can see, if you go from the bottom up, I took our $14,169,686 budget. I divided it by the 795 students that I was advised we had. I received a student enrollment number spreadsheet from Pam Lawrence, our assistant to the superintendent, administrative assistant to the superintendent, sorry. And those are the figures I used. So the reason that Leiden and Warwick are highlighted is because those two schools are running higher than our district average. Once again, I mentioned the district in general is running above state average, but if we're going to talk to our district and try to make decisions within our district, I think it's important that we understand these costs.
I'm sorry, I normally have a head for this kind of thing, but
That's
did
okay.
you?
Can't hear.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I cannot recall. Did you tell us what the state average was?
I have not done complete research, but from the little bit of research I've talked to people within, communities or whatever, it's roughly 14 to 15,000 a student. And I don't necessarily think that's per state either. I think that's kind of in the New England area in general. I know in our school district, just in Chesterfield, New Hampshire, SAU 29, our school's 14 or 15,000 a student, and we have 286 kids in a K through 8 school. So just to give you some numbers to maybe look at. So this is, like I said, very high level. It doesn't necessarily take into account exactly how many special needs kids are at each school, or how myself or your assistant superintendent or superintendent serve those schools. It is just averages it across every single student and what we're really looking at. So it might not exactly be 24,000, but you can see that the allocation of the expenses across those students where they lie. Yes, David?
Okay. I would argue that the calculation, I'm from Warwick, I'll use Warwick School, okay? Embedded in those 56 are 20 special needs students for which we get $100,000. So I think the real calculation would be to take the 22, I got to work back to the cost of the Warwick School. My understanding is that things like special needs and administrative costs were distributed per student.
Yes.
Okay. So if I take the 22,757, what you calculated for Warwick, and multiply it times 56, that comes out to $1 million something, $1.2 million something. And then I subtract 100,000 from it, and then I divide by 36. That's our core students. We take special needs students because we have space, but when we're spending an average.
So the special needs.
I'm sorry, we take school choice.
Right.
So. Because it's $5,000 and we have space, we don't create capacity for it. But if you follow my analysis, it costs $32,000 for each kid from the sending towns. 32,600 is, it's taking the 100,000 we get for school choice off the top.
So the school choice is part of monies we receive from the state, from what I understand. And in addition, the special needs budget that's part of this number is not your special needs teacher that are covered by grants. This is the special needs administration that if you look at either your FY18 or FY19 budget, they are number 7. They're not their own school. It's just the administration, managers, tuition we pay to outside schools, et cetera.
I misspoke.
It's not the actual salaries of the teachers that cover them.
Special needs, the only thing I was talking about was, how we allocated the special needs, how we allocated. School choice was what I meant to speak to. And if we take your demonstration of cost, which shows that it is already very, very high, it also means that essentially the taxpayers here are subsidizing special needs under this by the tune of school choice by the tune of around $17,000 per kid. I mean, that's defective thinking, but our real cost to educate our kids that are our responsibility in our small schools for Warwick's $32,600.
In this district, our town sent 612 kids to our schools. So this 795 represents school choice. And just like David says, we should deduct how much we get, then divide by the number of kids we have from our towns, and it's going to come out much higher figure.
Right, so I understand that if you take that out, it's going to come up higher, but on a by-school basis, if you took the percentage of the total cost, this was just to point out where we need to make some improvements. And like I said, this is just a very high level. This is not taking into account school choice. This is not taking into account exactly how many school choice or how many special needs kids are at each school. This is the highest level per pupil calculation based on our bottom line expense budget so that we have a place to start. Okay.
I think it's a great place to start, and I think the next step should be to take out the school choice and show us the amounts without school choice.
And
show us, what are we bringing in for school choice?
That is something that realistically the business manager should be doing. I am not trying to pat myself on the back here, but I spent Monday, my day off, here the entire day for 9 hours putting this information together for you guys because I felt that the community needed some answers.
And I think for the committee, I thank you for doing that. That's a boatload of work that's needed to be done for a long time, and it's great to get some answers.
I think you misspoke.
Did somebody,
I think
Martha?
you meant school choice.
Oh, when you said 20 special need children.
He meant
20 school choice children.
He was misspeaking.
And I kept doing it, and I apologize.
You kept doing it, and it didn't switch in my brain when you stopped doing it. Okay.
That's okay. Now, our next agenda item is administration team recommendation for financial cuts. Gail?
I want to reiterate another time, these are not recommendations.
Right.
We were asked, directed, as a team, and that team are the people who are sitting here this evening, to give you options. And that's what those are.
And as I heard before, these are not options that are recommended. These are not options you want to make. These are options we asked you to make because we could see the writing on the wall. And I think at looking over them, nobody wants to make those. Sharon?
But we just didn't decide to ask them to do it. We were
No,
directed to do
exactly.
it by, was it DOR or
Yeah.
Desi? Who was it
It
that
was-
directed us?
It was our lawyer.
It's our lawyer.
Our lawyer.
Who's
So,
been talking
I'm
to
sorry,
Desi and
It's
DOR.
nothing we wanted to do either. But
So, having said that, we have packets. Now, how do people feel? Do we feel we're going to work on these tonight? Do you feel that we can wait? We do have that deadline of June 1st, which is Friday. David? Week from tomorrow.
My work as Budget Committee Chair tells me that from the current fiscal year to next year, we need to make between 10 and 12 staff cuts. And that's, I say that in the context of 80% of our expenditures relate to employer costs and wages and insurance. I determined last week that we're self-insured on unemployment insurance. So that explains a good deal of our losses as we trimmed our sails and made cuts and thought we were going to save $60,000 and perhaps more, because if the wage was whatever, plus the health insurance and such, but we needed to set aside $25,000 or $30,000 for unemployment insurance because we don't pay a percentage as a premium. We are self-insured, which means the unemployment office issues a check and then we cover it. And that basically means that when we lay off a staff member, those health insurance benefit savings there are needed to cover unemployment insurance. When we get to, say, early September, having made adequate provision for those 10 or 12 layoffs and the associated costs of unemployment insurance, we can look at what's going on. We get ourselves in trouble because we budget too tightly and then we overspend. We can't do that, but we can look in September because many of those individuals may have found work and are not collecting on us. We still have the potential liability. If it doesn't work out, they could come back. But we've got to make draconian cuts to bring this in line, to properly fund the items that are underfunded. We're in a very difficult place.
Sue?
So we could also outline for our towns what our schools would look like if we made those cuts. And then we could have a conversation and perhaps even a vote in our towns where we decide as communities whether we're going to reinvest or whether we're going to cut. But we have the June 1st deadline for letting faculty know whether they have a job or not. So then I started to think about, all right, well, we have union reps here. Is there any way to negotiate time amongst our union reps and our school committee so that we buy a little time for more appropriate, in-depth, shared conversation and decision-making? I don't know if that's possible or not. So I know we have an MTA rep here and we have our union rep here. This is sort of extraordinary circumstances. I'm just trying to think creatively so that we don't feel so boxed into making decisions we don't have information for.
Ariel, are you still, all right, thanks. Maybe you can give us your ideas on these.
So as I just walked through the crowd, I heard a number of members say, no, you've waited too long, this is on you. And then I went to my regional rep, Brad Brousseau.
Can't hear you.
I went to the regional rep, Brad Brousseau, to get some feedback on this as well. And basically it comes down to, right now, I can't give you a definitive answer on that because I too am feeling that push of like, oh, it's going to come down on us, that because of our contract, we have this June 1st deadline. And yes, I would like it discussed. I also put forward that there are other stakeholders who have thoughts and ideas that might be valuable. But I have to go back to my members and I need to get their thoughts, which I can do fairly quickly, but I can't speak to it directly right now.
So where did that leave us right now? I hear you, I hear us.
Yep.
But how are we going to make it work? David?
There isn't any magic. We all were a bit buoyed today to read in the paper that there's a possibility of rurality aid, which would, rural aid, that would add $75 in local aid. There's no magic. And I will say that I believe that our budget process delaying the assessments was a mistake. We should be in the current year doing a comprehensive schedule. We should know what next year's classes are. We should know what the sections are. We should have an idea of the staffing needs of next year today. We've got to begin to discuss these cuts today. We cannot get off the knife edge. This is not doing anybody a favor, pushing things down the line. Now, with respect to the deadline, it's the contract, and we signed it. The school committee signed it. The thing that concerns me is that we not wholesale riff just to meet a deadline, because we do not want to lose our best teachers because of the uncertainty. So there's a lot of hard work to do in the next 10 days.
May I put forward my 2 cents before I walk away from the table?
Sure.
I feel and I hear that people really want to hear what the ideas are that came, although these although these administrators the principals have made it very clear to you that they do not support the very things that they're going to say to you. And what Sue is saying and what a number were saying, I feel that I would ask that you do not make any decision tonight, but do air what they are. And even if it's tomorrow or Monday, give some time for thoughts, feedback, digestion in some way. That's what I sincerely ask of you. And I can get some information from my members, and maybe there is some leeway. And it is 10 days away. It's not tomorrow that is that deadline. And how long does it take to make those forms? Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel.
Jeannie?
I think I recall from previous meetings that there was a...
Can you use the microphone, Jeannie?
I thought I was loud enough.
No, never.
Yeah. Do I recall, Bob, that you said that pre-K and sixth grade from Pearl Roads may possibly be at the Bernardston Elementary School?
It will need to happen because already in fiscal 19 budget, there's been a teacher reduction, so that we need to restructure, and that would mean pre-K and sixth grade.
And sixth grade.
I think, Jeannie, if you look on your colored pages, it has those.
This is a prelude.
Okay.
To an idea. And would it be, it's not going to help a whole lot, would it be beneficial to have the Leiden students all at the elementary school in Bernardston on a, not close the school, but have the students at the elementary school in Bernardston starting in September, and what would the benefit of that be? It's just another idea.
I think we all need to think out of the box a little. Shall we first, before we start thinking out of the box, review what the administrative team has done? Okay, quick
comment. With all these cuts that have come up with.
Can't hear you, Sharon, I'm sorry.
With all the cuts that have been presented, this is not a popular item, but I think I need to say it at any rate. I'd like to see one of our dedicated administrators here at Pioneer relinquish the last year of their contract, which would help us immensely in this terrible time.
All right, shall we look at our colored pages? Martha, you've got a question mark on your forehead.
I just have two quick questions. I have no idea. I just have two quick questions. One of them is...
Can't hear you.
Here, Sharon, this one works, just use it.
She gave me a new one, but it doesn't work. Okay, my two quick questions are, in regards to the possibility of closing schools. Actually, no, my first question is, how much money are we aiming for? $1 million? Okay, we're aiming for $1 million in cuts. Okay. And my second question is, in regards to the possibility of closing a school. I'm just saying this, okay? Does the agreement, which now says that every town needs to educate kindergarten through 6th grade in their own town, would that at the same time require that provision in the district agreement to be changed in order to accommodate this change?
Yes, it would, and in speaking to several of the select boards within the towns, that could happen this summer at special town meetings.
So that would have to happen immediately.
It would have to
So
happen
we're aiming
before
for,
we did
we're
that.
aiming for FY19, obviously.
I'm not sure what we're aiming for. That's what we have to discuss tonight.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
Peg?
I just wondered, the decision to keep... Oops, I'm sorry, I forgot. The decision to keep these, they're not proposed, options, there we go, just amongst ourselves, is that to, why?
Maybe Gail can answer that question. Did you hear? Peg?
Why weren't the options made public is the question.
You requested for us as a team to give them to you by Wednesday, which is 24 hours ahead of time. They were given to you on Tuesday, and it's your job to do that.
Sure you can. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My name's Jennifer Core.
Can't hear you.
My name's Jennifer Core. I'm from Warwick. I think just as a parent here, and I think there's a lot of parents here, it's really difficult to track this conversation because there's so much that is unclear. So this is just one example of that. We're talking about really big decisions, but you're not introducing what we're talking about before you're talking about it. And we're sort of observing, and it's very difficult. So I'm asking for a little bit more transparency, and maybe that looks like really being clear about the decisions we're talking about, and then giving those decisions the time that they require to be made in an informed way.
Yay.
I believe I introduced it as administrative team's recommendations for financial cuts and a vote. David?
This is a school committee meeting and nobody... This is a school committee meeting. We've got serious work to do, and no one but a school committee member called on, I think, should be speaking from here on out. I'm sorry if it's unclear. It's unclear to enough of us that we've created quite a mess. But we must talk among ourselves, and make decisions. And I'm not thinking we're going to settle things tonight. We're going to explore some options and then turn over some rocks and see if they really will obtain what we're looking for and not have surprises like unemployment insurance is self-insured and we spend $200,000 or $300,000 we didn't count on. We have a lot of work to do.
Tanya?
Can I just...
Tanya?
I'm going to just make a quick recommendation because I have to excuse myself at 8 o'clock. I think it is important to read through these so that the community members and the teachers understand what the possibilities are. However, I do recommend that any feedback from the community does go through the proper channels, through either the administrators or to the committee. But I think it's super important that this committee schedules a emergency meeting next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it is, after we can further talk to DESE again. This $1 million deficit we have in front of us is already on our books. Okay, we need $1 million loan to function starting June 1, we'll say. Our first payroll is July 13th, or June, sorry, July 13th. But I think if DESI is going to come in and manage us, and not manage us, but help us with some advisory committee, they may suggest that we tear this apart into 2 or 3 years. So I think that discussion needs to be had with DESI before any decisions are actually made, because the deficit's on our books, it's not going to go away. Yes, we would like to have some E&D so we can establish these reserve funds, but if we can't effectively cut $1 million from this budget without taking services away from the students, I think that conversation should be had with DESI to find out what we're really liable for and what a plan for other districts who have had them come in looks like. How long did they have to make that deficit up? Was it a year? Did they have 2 years? Was it a 5-year plan? So I think after these are given to you guys as options that might be available, before we pick a number, 500,000, a million, 333,000, if, you know, depending on the number of years DESI will give you, I think a conversation needs to be had with DESI again on Monday to decide what type of plan they usually put in place for the communities as far as the time they have to make up that deficit legally.
That's sort of what I was going to say, but everybody's gotten ahead of me. So, Sharon, you had a question?
Would it be appropriate for Jean to make some copies for people?
Let us read them first, discuss them, and maybe next week we'll have a copy. But I think right now, that yeah, we're going to read them. That's people are going to hear. So, does anybody have a question of Tanya before she leaves? No. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Tanya.
So much. Continue looking for a green cell phone. She deserves her cell phone back.
Yeah. Oh, I hope you find it.
Thank you.
Sharon? I mean, Sue.
I just want to say up front that I don't feel, well, we are flying without our administrative and educational leader. There is a vacuum at this table.
And we have been for
of
months.
Leadership and expertise. I don't think it's appropriate for this committee, without outside expertise at the table, to be having these conversations and trying to make these decisions. And I think it's inappropriate. I feel ill-equipped for this level of problem solving and planning, and I will abstain from any vote right now. I think it's inappropriate. I think we need expertise at the table to support this process. And I don't consider David as a town manager to be our sort of built-in expertise.
That's for sure.
David, first.
No, I only claim to be probably the most embarrassed by this situation because in my capacity and experience in nonprofit management and working in government, if anybody on this committee should have seen this more clearly, it was me, and I'm sorry. So my question is to the administrators who, you know, this is clearly an unwelcome assignment. It's their job to be advocates for their schools. It's why we have good schools, because we have this structure. So this is not a recommendation, but if the committee thinks that this should be presented, I think it should be presented by the administrators, and it would give them an opportunity to color this as off as they think. And what I would propose is that each one of the building principals gets one bullet, one veto. I'd like to know what the ranking is of all these options. I would like to know the ranking of the options. They all stink. Do they all stink equally? All right, that's clear. Thank you.
Is there any other committee comments? Martha, I see your...
First of all, no, I don't think we should ask the administrators to do that. I just want to emphasize that. Absolutely. They reluctantly and graciously complied with the recommendation, the requirement, actually, it's not a recommendation. Thank you for doing
It's
that.
not, we voted on it. And I voted against it.
I know, okay, that's the only point I wanted to make. The second point, now I've forgotten what the second point was. Sue, I want to go back to what you said. I believe that you are feeling, after we make a decision or after we present the options, maybe in conjunction with the towns, was your idea that, with the select boards, was your idea that the select boards would then go back to their respective towns, present what it would look like with whatever cuts we decide on, and say, do you want to spend more money? Do you want to pay more taxes to do it? Is that what you were getting at with?
I think there are people that know how to do this, that have done it before, that could guide us, and we have the money to pay them, and I'd like to have that at the table.
I was wondering if in the meeting on June 7th, will that help be available, or is that for something else?
That would be something else.
Okay.
I think we need to move before June 7th. I think if we had a special meeting the week after graduation, so the 4th, 5th, 6th, or the 6th is already Tuesday, the 5th. Tuesday evening, we already have interviews set up for candidates for superintendent, so Tuesday night is out. It would have to either be Monday or Wednesday of that week. Jeannie?
But we don't know about the June 1st deadline. That's still not clear.
That's right.
We need to reconvene interviews next week?
What?
It's a deadline.
Aren't our interviews
We have
next
two
week?
different
Right
days.
now,
I'll tell you later.
Right now, that June 1st is a deadline.
It is a deadline. That's right.
So to wait till the 7th is not an option.
We'd need to reconvene to consider whether that was
right
changeable.
Okay, so I'll take a couple more people, and then we need to figure out what we're going to do next.
We need to go over this, I think.
Yeah, I do too.
To let them know what the options are.
Who's meeting with MJ Handy? I thought somebody's going to meet so you know what your, what your options are. Isn't what the treasurer said? I thought that was pretty specific, you know? Somebody's got to, get together next week with her and find out.
I have a conference call on Tuesday with Mary Jane and Desi, and I would like to have a meeting after that to speak. But I think to have a meeting before I speak to Desi would not be, what would be the sense?
Right.
Isn't that part of our meetings that we're going to be setting up for the 7th, the 14th, or the 21st?
To do it before.
I have to I'm having a preliminary meeting, a conference call with them, as I stated earlier. John?
Yeah, this is a lot to digest.
It is.
Just getting the information tonight, so I'd suggest that we meet next Wednesday. You talk to Desi on Tuesday, maybe next Wednesday night we can meet and see if we do need to meet these hard deadlines for
Okay.
June 1st.
All right.
And how much we need to cut, because we're not going to make it all up in 1 year.
No.
I mean, if we cut 1.2 million, then we're going to have a $600,000
Exactly.
surplus the year after.
All right,
And then all the services are gone.
Sue?
The Heart Committee meets on Wednesday.
Okay, so Heart Committee meets at 6:30?
Yeah.
You can't have a meeting, open meeting laws, you have to be able to post. Monday's a holiday.
It has to be posted tomorrow.
It'll be posted tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Friday.
Tomorrow will be good for Wednesday.
Northfield Town Hall is closed on Friday. Right. So you can't post tomorrow. You can't post
I believe you can just post on, David, do you have, isn't it that we can just post?
If the
on
selectmen have
outside?
voted to make your website the official site, then the
Yes.
town can post there and post there only.
It doesn't have to be received by the town clerk.
Post it on the door.
Okay.
Well, a copy absolutely needs to go to the town clerk,
By you?
any old way. They usually
All right.
fax them.
Oh, so fair.
I see your hand up, yes. I know you're Heart Committee, so come and heart us out.
So, my name is Ginger Robinson, I'm on the Finance
Committee in Leiden, and I'm on the Heart Committee. And I know this is very controversial. I just am seeing how we're pushed up against the wall, and I just want to ask this question. And maybe you want to explore this week. can you take the kids from Leiden, educate them in Bernardston, take the kids from Warwick, educate them in the town of Northfield, not, as an emergency measure, not close the school? That will be determined later. And lay off, hopefully no or fewer teachers, and keep the services and the things that the kids need for a great education. That's my question.
I don't know the answer, but
Okay.
we can look
I
into
think
it.
it's maybe worth a little looking into.
Yeah.
And if there's anything I can do to help, email me.
Thanks. David?
What, I believe that if there's an option of closing an elementary school or two, that it would, at this juncture, only be under emergency provisions and temporary, because our district agreement says it takes a vote of 3 towns. I wanted to speak to John's point about cutting $1 million all in 1 year. FY19 has $620,000, mostly health insurance, of expenses that we have to add in. And it is against the law to do what we've done 3 years in a row, which is lose money. We have to balance a FY19 budget, and that's what this discussion's about. The borrowing money, we can have up to 10 years to repay it. But remember that all our borrowed money does have to be repaid. It'll come out of our future revenues, which we do not have enough of. So we want to borrow for cash flow purposes. We do not want to finance next year with debt, additional debt. We must balance that budget, and it's going to be crushing.
I think we're all just sort of avoiding the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room are these 4 or 5 pieces of paper in front of us that are multicolored. And I think we need to let the people know what this is. And none of us like it any more than anybody else. It stinks. But I think we've got, this is a meeting of the school committee, and I would appreciate you remembering the norms that we read at the beginning of the meeting. We need to discuss this between the committee, and I appreciate people being here, but we cannot hear each other talk if everybody else is speaking. So do I just read through these and give you an idea of what, under protest, that people have been speaking to?
Maybe this one first.
What one is that?
The one that we have to add $446,600 to next year's budget to have accurately.
Okay, Peg, do you want to run through that, because I can't see mine right now on the top of my head?
Sure.
I've got it. I've got it.
Oops, sorry.
All right. Can you find it? Starts with necessary additions and corrections to current FY19 proposal.
Oh, you got it.
Nope,
Okay,
you've
good.
got it. Go ahead.
Is this on? Yes. These budget shortfalls were determined by our administrators in the 5 hours or whatever it was that they sat and worked so diligently on this process. First thing is whether or not we have a full-time or a 3/4 time business manager. We have yet to determine that. We only have $50,000 budgeted. Second thing is we need a food service director with an approximate estimated cost of $40,000. We don't have anything in the budget for that. We're looking at our health and life insurance as being under budgeted by $371,700 for fiscal 19. A question mark is our unemployment taxes. That'll be needed to be funded based on the number of layoffs. Substitutes for Bernardston, we need an additional $12,500. Substitutes for Northfield, we need another $10,000. Northfield, it looks like we've over budgeted the nursing need by $15,000. Pro Roads fuel expense, we need an additional $300 300. On our SPED department for our speech and language pathologists, we need an additional 20,000 to cover the salaries of our current staff. Under our shared budget, for our shared elementary school teachers, we need an additional $2,000 for our current staff. Question mark would be our district transportation for shared SPED. Also, a question mark is our district tech. Our 19 budget was cut by $30,000 from fiscal 18, but we don't know if that's doable. Under our shared budget, that our special ed transportation, we need
That's for homeless transportation.
Oh, that's what that is. Oh, okay. Sorry. Homeless transportation needs to be funded at 10,000, so that's an additional 5,000. And we don't have potential raises for our teachers and staff in the budget. So we're looking at an estimate of $446,642 with some more question marks in there that we actually need to add to our fiscal 19 budget.
So, continue on the same line. So, I'm going to start with, for the committee members, the purple sheet. Restructuring options. To cut preschool, it would be a saving of $76,000. We would continue to provide required services for preschool students with disabilities with current specialist staffs, OT, PT, and speech. Elimination of preschool may have impact on future regular education and special education needs. Second option, move 6th grade to PVRS with a saving of $110,000. Would need fewer teachers if all were in one building, reduce 2 full-time equivalent teachers. These numbers are based on the current fiscal year 19 budget and a reduction of 1 full-time equivalent at PRES Leiden. Pre-K and 6 would move to Bernardston Elementary. So that's the purple sheet. Moving on to orange. I have them in no specific order.
I don't have an orange.
Yes, you do. Look further on. I think
Look
it's
under your yellow.
underneath your yellow one.
There it is. Well, I have a pink.
I have a pink too.
Yeah, this is what we call orange.
Yeah, that's orange. Or salmon, whatever. It's one of those colors. This is the specialists, art, music, PE, and technology. Consolidate art and music and PE positions at the elementary schools with a savings of $88,000. Reduce time for all elementary teachers from 40 to 30 minutes. Some already have 30-minute specials. Eliminate specials for preschool and reduce instrumental music. $88,000. Or consolidate art, music, and PE positions at the elementary school and reduce to 4 days per week. Reduce time for all elementary specials from 40 to 30 minutes. Some already have that 30-minute special. Eliminate specials in preschool. Eliminate instrumental music for savings of $143,000. Or consolidate instrumental music instruction 5 through 12. Wait, just a second. So okay. Why don't you wait? Let me finish this and then. Reduce from 2 full-time equivalents to 1 full-time equivalent would reduce electives in music at PVRS. 80 students study instrumental music in grades 4 through 6, 83 in grades 7 through 8, and that would be a savings of 7 through 12, excuse me, and that would be a save of $47,000. Or consolidate vocal and instrumental music at the elementary level. Reduce 1.5 full-time equivalents to 1 full-time equivalent with a savings of $37,000. Or eliminate elementary technology education which would reduce 1.5 full-time equivalents with a savings of $100,000. Or cut all specials, art, music, technology, and band at the elementary level. PE cannot be eliminated as it is required by state law, and that would be a savings of $328,000. Robin, you had a question.
I did. Sorry. Here, why don't I just do this?
Yes.
So my question was all of the ors, because the first or consolidate art, music, and PE eliminate instrumental music, and the third or the second or the third row down says consolidate instrumental music instruction, and then the fourth row down says or consolidate vocal and instrumental music at the elementary level. So it seems to me that the eliminate instrumental music and the two options following are mutually exclusive. So it's not really or, it's combinations of these things.
I don't know how to address this, but let me read them through them all, and then we'll have a few questions we can ask people. I think that would be the easiest way. Keep that in your head. We'll ask it again if you forget. I'm on to blue, extracurricular. Reduce number, oh, you've got yours back? Okay. Reduce number of sports or number of teams per sport in athletic programs at Pioneer in half. Must keep boys and girls opportunities equal, with a savings of $124,000, or eliminate sports completely at Pioneer with a number of $197,000. Reduce budget support for after-school clubs by half, with a savings of $14,000, or eliminate all budget support for after-school clubs for $28,000. Eliminate late buses, $12,740. Pioneer Monday and Thursday late buses, current ridership is 10 students per day.
Less than 10.
Average.
And that's less than 10.
That is less than 10. Eliminate elementary field trip support from budget for non-academic and out-of-district trips, $8,000. Preserves essential field trips between schools for transitions, band, etc. Now we're on to pink. This is staff reductions. Eliminate one teacher at Northfield Elementary. Class sizes increase from 12 or 13 to 25 to 26 in the upper grades, $44,000. Eliminate one teacher at Bernardston Elementary. Class of 21 change from 2 teachers to 1 teacher and 1 instructional aide, $24,000. Eliminate 1 teacher and reduce some offerings in material tech and engineering architecture at Pioneer. Other teachers would pick up some of our current offerings, some being that opportune word, $62,000. Consolidate food and nutrition and health positions at Pioneer. Reduce 2 full-time equivalents to 1 full-time equivalent. Some reduction in electives available would occur, $42,000. Reduce administrative assistant, reduced 2 half-time full-time equivalents at Pearl Roads and Warwick Elementary, $24,000. Reduce custodian at Pioneer, 4 to 3 full-time equivalents, $37,000. And the last one. It's on yellow. School closures. Pearl Roads includes maintenance of building and transfer from some staff to serve Pearl Road students in Bernardston, with a potential savings of $300,000. Close Warwick Community School includes maintenance of building and transfer of staff to serve Warwick community students at Northfield. If this option is chosen, cannot reduce any teachers at Northfield Elementary, and that savings would be $400,000. So that's all the bad news that I have. Now, Robin had a question, and I'm not sure if there's questions from other committee people or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention the other document
Yes.
that the administrators gave us. Oops. Yep. Sorry. The administrators at that meeting also looked at the Pioneer budget, realized that some of the lines were under budgeted. They've reallocated the money to hopefully meet the needs and kept the bottom line the same. But we do have that document as well.
Are there any questions from the committee of our administrators? Robin had one. I'm not sure if other people did.
The or is for you to have many choices. That's why it says
Or.
There's another one with price, or there's another one.
I understood that. My question was, some of the ors appear as if they are combinable, and some of them do not, and that was what was not clear to me.
Do not list them as being able to be combined.
Okay.
One or the other. Each one is separate. Separately priced.
So one could not consolidate art, music, and PE, and also change the instrumental music instruction simultaneously. That was my confusion, because it looked as though that was possible based on the information I had in front of me.
Yes. Under staff reductions, Bob, maybe you could. And here. Under staff reductions, Mr. Clancy,
Yellow.
maybe.
Pink.
Under the pink.
Staff reduction.
Eliminate
Okay.
one teacher at BES. So I'm just trying to clarify, change from 2 teachers to 1 teacher and 1 instructional aide. Is this like a behavioral class that has 2 teachers, or?
This was something that was done this year, just a couple of months ago. The class was split due to the number of services that were required. And by recombining, we need to bring back an IA to assist with the teacher.
I can speak. I had that class last year for first grade, and I can be honest, it was my hardest year teaching. Now 8 of those children have qualified for special needs, and I did it with some support, but it was very hard. And my son is in that class, and we have other people with children in that class, and it has made the world of difference having another teacher there. This year it has improved his whole school experience, and it's heartbreaking to hear that that could go away next year.
My name is Nolan Kitfield. I'm a teacher in the district. I'm also a taxpayer in the district. And I really care about educating these kids that are moving forward in our world. This is a bigger deal than the $1 million that we owe. It is a bigger deal than taking, 12,000 here and 11,000 here and 500 here. We need to look forward. We went through this with making our original budget, and you know what? It wasn't done well. It's time to do it well. I think that we need more money. We need to go to the towns, and we need to push for more money. I so appreciate the time and effort that went into these potential things, because I understand the spirit it came from. It was a needed thing, but I think that if in the closed session of discussing what's going to happen, I think we are making a huge mistake, not just for our school for next year to pay off this problem, to take preschool away. That shouldn't even be on the table. We should be doing things with 3-year-olds and 2-year-olds and whatever we can do because of where they're going. We cannot, I mean, taking away all athletics, we're going to lose all of the children in the district. We are going to lose the district if we do that. And I don't think it's a bad idea to be efficient in our spending. I think it's very good. I think that our town finance committees have always been very careful with it. But I think our school committee needs to go to those towns and say, you know what? We need an override. We need more money, and we need people to really speak up about it. And it looks like we have people in this room that would show up for that if it were done. I realize that being fiscally responsible is so important. I'm a taxpayer. I want my taxes to be low, but I will pay more money if it means this school district can thrive. We have such committed families here. You know, I can't even tell you how, when I talk to other friends that I know in districts in other places, they don't have 99% of the family show up for parent conferences. They don't have everyone come to all these events all throughout the year. I mean, you come here on the science night, the school's filled with families who care about it. I really believe that we need to somehow figure it out, and if our town administrators can help with, I realize there are also fixed incomes on the other side of it, but it has to be a budget that serves the children. And it has to change. You know, if we get to a place where we're in good shape, we can still be efficient with how we spend our money. We can still do a good job with, but you can't get rid of technology. That you just can't. You can't get rid of preschool. You can't stop music. I mean, unless you want to close 5 schools, you can't take all those things away. And it means we have to ask for more money. We've already sliced this so close to the bone. And I realize this problem is a problem. It's here. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I think we need a plan. And the plan has to involve more money. And
David, did you have a hand up?
For once, I did not.
Okay, somebody said you did. Is there anybody that has not spoken that wishes to? Bob?
I'm representing myself, not the Board of Selectmen in Bernardston, but I would say this. There's no way you can eliminate these things. I'm sorry. If you eliminate sports, my 4 grandsons will be gone. They won't come to school without having the ability to play. You can't eliminate music because that's what some other kids like. We didn't get into this problem all at once. And I don't see that this DESI is going to close down Pioneer. If, for example, the towns, if Bernardston votes to pay the lunch program, that's $270,000 of your debt. If you can see a couple $100,000 here, and maybe we can go to the towns, but almost every town is going to need an override because we're so close. But I don't think we need to cut $1 million in 1 year. I just don't see that. I mean, we've got to come up with some other solution. I mean, I was in teaching. Our teachers do a great job, and what are we going to do? I mean, you guys are volunteers, like basically the town fathers are volunteers, and we have to listen to all sides of the argument. Education is the most important thing, and we do have a lot of teachers that are trying to keep kids in this district that probably should be outplaced from this district. There's some problems with, special needs, et cetera, and we do everything we can to keep them here rather than paying 75 grand to send them elsewhere. But listen, what are you getting now? You're getting 14 million. It's not like we're cutting 7 million. You got principally your budget, and you need to make some decisions about, you have to let the teachers know. We want to keep the teachers. You have to let them know. And we'll have to try to work this out gradually, but we got to get on the stick to do it. You've known about some of these problems for a considerable amount of time, guys. You know, all these people here are here because they care about the school. I'm a graduate, you're a graduate. How many are graduates of this school? You know, I mean, the school needs to be here. We have to educate our kids. And so, I guess we can take it back to the towns. I'm not sure how, you know, some people can say, oh, you know, I want an override, but then it's got to be voted on, and it's very difficult to pass. And we need somebody that's going to spend our money properly. I wouldn't have given you $595. I would have kept it and given it to the next people in charge. I'm sorry.
I'm going to try to resist the urge to refute everything that's said, but the idea, our assessment has been set. 3 towns have passed it. Had Leiden turned it down and Bernardston, through a confluence of people who hate the proposed budget and those who want more, voted it down, we could have come back. So at this point, we're talking supplemental appropriations. One thing we could do is ask the towns to have special town meetings and consider supplemental appropriations to say, restore sports and art, $328,000 split out. If it doesn't pass, it's cut. But we have got to stop budgeting in such a way that we go underwater every time, because there's so much resistance to making the cuts that are required when you go from a 1,200 student school to a 700 and something student school, and you keep the same staffing. We cannot, if we're resistant in this way, we're going to have another deficit. Well, the cuts are going to be made. It's a question of, does this committee choose the least onerous options, and with perhaps a path to bring things back if the townspeople are willing. But we must move. We must not delay.
Sharon?
We have to keep Pioneer as a whole. I don't see us getting rid of any more teachers, music, sports, arts, any of that. And when I say that, I have to then go to the yellow sheet. And I say, okay, closure of 2 schools would probably be the answer to be able to restore all of those other things. And I would do that, to restore the other things. We've got to keep Pioneer going, because if we don't, those doors will close. Our people will go elsewhere to educate their kids, have sports and music and all the other things.
And it'll better the student-teacher ratio.
Now, this is a very hard thing. My granddaughter is supposed to go to Pearl Roads. We've been waiting and waiting for her to go to school there. It's a wonderful school. My kids went there. This is a really difficult situation. And yet, I would propose it tonight, because we have got to keep the rest of the school going. The rest of the district has got to keep going. We can't go without music and sports and arts and all that.
I would second that, Chair.
Committee? Yes.
I would only say that by closing these 2 elementary schools temporarily, it moves us toward the million or more that we need to cut. The figure that we're looking at for our health insurance shortfall of 300 and something, the Department of Revenue feels that it's really 500,000 because of our inability to budget this year and going underwater. We can't tighten our budget up by being hopeful on the revenue side or skimping on something on the expense side and budgeting for it and going over. We have no margin. We have no bottom line. We're insolvent. We are insolvent. I think reluctantly Sharon's idea is good, and to get to the $1 million, we could put art and music on the ballot for supplemental appropriation. If the towns,
You're a town manager. It's a conflict of interest for you, as far as I can tell. You clearly just don't. Didn't you just hear what Bob said?
Let's not let people shouting out, please. This is a meeting of our school committee. Please be respectful of that. Robin?
So I think I'm sorry, I just lost it.
Deb?
When I came onto the school committee, I came on. When I came onto the school committee, I came on because I wanted the children of this district to have the best.
I can't hear you.
Shut it off, I think.
Is it on now?
Yeah, it is.
When I came onto the school committee, I came on because I wanted the children that are current, that are going to be future. To have the best education that they could possibly have. I know we have to make some cuts and some adjustments because of just the way things are. I don't really know what the answer is, but I do want the best for all children in this district. That's all I can say.
I found it. This is not an argument against what Sharon and Jim were saying about the possibility of temporarily closing the two smallest elementary schools for the upcoming school year. The only concern I had that I don't know if this was figured in is the issue that David brought up earlier about the fact that 2/5 of the Warwick Elementary School are school choice, and would we be losing that revenue by closing the school?
We wouldn't.
Okay.
Having accepted a student into school choice, if they want to stay with us, they follow us. If we were to close Leiden or Northfield, that school choice student, Leiden or, yeah.
186 kids in Northfield.
Yes, I think that in order to close these schools, we would need to move the 6th grade to Pioneer to make room.
But I think his Robin's point was that if Warwick kids were no longer educated in Warwick, we might lose some of those students that live in Orange or close to the Warwick border. They might ought not to come. I think that was what Robin's
At
point
Warwick
was.
School, I'm arguing that it doesn't cost $22,000 to educate a kid. That's the average with the school choice kids in the mix, so it's over $30,000 per kid. As a district, financially, we'd be better off if they abandoned us at school choice.
It's just a small.
Yeah.
It goes 3 times as much to educate them as we get it.
Okay, so we've discussed and discussed. I think everybody in this room feels the same way. These ideas stink. We don't like them. We want the best education we can. And I see Elizabeth over there raising her hand.
I want the committee to be clear that in moving the children of Warwick Community School to Northfield, you are not talking about, at least with these savings, you're not talking about moving all of the staff. This does represent significant staffing cuts.
Yes.
So I noticed that as you read it, it didn't say some staff moving to Northfield. So I just want you to be clear on that.
Yes.
Actually,
Whoops. Go ahead. You've been sitting there for a long time. I was trying to get the committee's input before we got community input. Sorry.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to try to keep it short, or else I'll cry. My name is Samantha LeDuc. I graduated from Pioneer last year, and Pioneer was my home. I school of choice from that fall. And I made a lot of quality relationships with some teachers that were let go already. And I always pictured myself coming back and walking through Pioneer and being happy to be with everybody and see everybody again, but they're not there. And graduating last year, I saw the spirit of Pioneer fall. And I can hopefully speak for any of the other students in the room that watching teachers that we love so dearly leave, because I'll be honest, I don't know all the numbers, I don't know all the figures, but I know as a student, it took a toll on everybody involved, not just them. And I can't see Pioneer going on if it continues to make those kind of cuts. It hurt me, and I know it hurts everybody else involved, and I know this is a hard situation, but it's the overall environment of Pioneer that drew me here, because I knew there were teachers that made relationships with the students, that cared. And I feel like if that continues to happen, then you're gonna keep losing kids. Even kids that come as far from Athol, like me, because my family went here and I wanted the same situation because I was in a bad situation. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you for sharing with us. Lois?
I would just like to give some information as to figures here, and they're only estimates. And this is just information, not to say one side or the other, but it is possible to go to the towns and ask for special town meetings that you talked about. And that takes a while to get going and have, of course. And like has been mentioned, the money has been allocated out for this year, but there are possibilities of override or needs of funding. As to Northfield, when any money is mentioned as far as Pioneer, I just automatically think 50%. Sometimes we go 51, sometimes we're 49, or whatever any costs are. You're talking about making up $1 million shortfall, then that would be about $1 on our tax rate, if that were a little bit over. And that's strictly an estimate.
That's for your half.
So just for an idea of what we're talking, other towns would be different, of course. But I think one thing we would want is just like we wanted assurance with the school lunch deficit, we wanted assurance that they would handle it so we wouldn't keep going in the red. I think we'd be talking about, okay, let's get more accurate figures in the future as far as future budgets are concerned, if the towns do come through this time. That's all.
Is there anything else anyone wants? Becky?
Well, to me, this is the least awful of the options. And I regret that we didn't start this process a year ago to give our parents, our community members, and our staff in those schools a chance to come to terms with closing those schools. We just found out a couple of weeks ago how much of a deficit we had for fiscal 17. On the other hand, I think if we have 20-some residents in Leiden attending the school, I personally feel that they would receive a better education in Bernardston than in such small classes.
Any other comments?
This gentleman was way in the back and had his hand
Okay.
raised.
Can't see behind it. Yes.
He went to school.
Hi, Adam Holloway. I have a son in Warwick. I just want to bring to the forefront basically what, by closing Warwick and potential Leiden, what you're asking is to have our children make up for things that have happened in the past and the mistakes that have been made. What you're also asking of Warwick is to, in essence, cut our nose off to spite our own face. And I say that in the fact that you're going to bus them to Northfield. I can tell you right now, I don't want my son bused to Northfield. I'm going to start looking at other options, including moving out of Warwick. I hope not to be that extreme with things. Other parents have said in conversations they fully intend to either move out or drastically change their plans in the coming couple of years to move out of Warwick. What you're doing to Warwick and potentially Leiden is you're taking on, basically saying to potential people coming into town, we don't have a school system. It's not going to attract them. That was what attracted us to come to Warwick, was the school system. You are, in essence, robbing the towns of that future by ruining that. So future-wise, you're going to be having less people move in, and it's going to create all sorts of other problems down the road. So it's cutting our nose off to spite our own face. I really think, and I understand that we're under some constraints, that we need to look other places. My other question is, if we don't make up this $1 million deficit this year, I know David said we're 3 years, so we're in essence potentially breaking the law. What happens if we don't? What happens if we go another year with a little bit of deficit and we make it up over a couple of years? I think that's a good question. Yeah, are we in fact going to be pulled into court over this? And again, I just asked it, but to reiterate, we're cutting our nose off to spite our own face by, in essence, destroying the school system. You're shuttering it. And the town of Warwick's going to be extremely angry over the fact that we're paying for a school that is now shuttered. We're just paying for a roof that's shuttered, and we're going to have to continue to pay on those and service those debts, and we're not going to have any school in Warwick. So that's it.
As far as what's going to happen, we've been notified by Department of Education and Department of Revenue, unless we meet our funding, our bills, our school is in, will be in receivership if nothing happens. And I think no one wants to see that because, yeah, that would, excuse me?
Explain what that is.
That would mean that the state would come in and they would probably go through this list that we have and get rid of everything that's there, plus probably more. So we are trying to be proactive as much as we can, having just found out about this relatively recently, that we have this kind of a concern. So it's not something that we can just say, whoops, we'll face it next year, because we can't. Yeah.
I just thought of something that I
Yes.
don't know the answer to.
Sure.
If Warwick Community School was renovated with SBA funding, there's legal ramifications for closing the building before a certain number of years.
I think it's 20 years.
I know it was 20 or 25, and I don't know when that building was renovated, perhaps someone else does.
It opened in 1999, like that.
Yeah, I think
It was
so.
never renovated.
Built.
All right, so 99, so we would still, we would have, 19 would be the quickest we could do it if that 20 years. If it's 25, it would be, what, 24? Yes.
I think that technicality is the least of our worries. But one of the reasons, besides highly valuing our small elementary schools as a really important part of our community, Northfield and Warwick have submitted competitive green communities grants in the amount of, in the aggregate of $500,000 at Warwick, at Northfield, and at Pioneer, which would, Northfield's grant and Warwick's grant, if awarded in the next week or so, each of the two towns would contribute to betterments in this building. The energy cost associated with Warwick, Northfield, and Pioneer is around $300,000. And this $500,000 grant fund betterment is projected to save us $84,000. That's a very fast payoff. Just talking about closing Warwick School could mean that we will not get the Warwick part of the grant. And since this is a competitive grant, there's not an opportunity to reprogram Warwick's money to do even other things like that we've delayed with Pioneer, which would cut our operating costs. So a part of the thinking about borrowing $2 million is we may be able to convince the state that there are a few investments that we can make that will save us money, but we can't afford it. It's like we're driving the old van, it's got an 8-cylinder, and we can't afford a newer 4-cylinder car, so we just keep pouring money in the old van. This will be an outcome. I mean, it's a competitive grant. There's no guarantee we're going to be funded, but I'm pretty optimistic. And I'm speaking against, in a way, closing Warwick School for that reason. I'll look at the application and see what happens if Warwick can't be part of it. But we will be proceeding, and if we can get the construction done this summer, then we would see some cost reductions here at the high school.
Karen?
Hi, I'm Karen Browning. I teach here at Pioneer.
Yeah.
I
Hear you.
Sorry. I hate that because I did the same thing back there. Okay, I'm Karen Browning. I teach here at Pioneer. I have worked here for 11 years. I'm a taxpayer in Northfield. I had a daughter who graduated from here. Tonight you've been presented with some ideas. The teachers have shown you that they're willing to do what we can to help the district. And I believe you were presented with some ideas that we could help find the revenue. If we continue to cut, we're going to lose, and we're going to lose, and we're going to lose. We need to increase our revenue. We need to get creative, and we need to think outside of the box. Right now, I think it's not a quick decision, but it is a quick decision because the DOR is putting pressure on us. But I think that the teachers have shown you that they're willing to help and do what we can to help you. And I think I would entertain you guys to listen and try to just be open and listen to some ideas to raise some money for this school.
Thank you. Does anybody on the committee have anything, how do you want to proceed from here? John?
Did we decide we're going to meet next Wednesday?
Yes.
I think there's a ton of stuff to digest here. I don't think we need to keep talking about it. We're already 3 hours into our meeting. I mean, it's important stuff to talk about, but let's digest it all and come back next Wednesday. And after your conversation with DOR on Tuesday, maybe we'll have an idea of how much we need to cut then to get us started. I don't think we can cut the whole 1.2 million in one lump sum.
We have to. We have to. It's going to happen. It's a question of whether we choose it.
Sharon is just saying, do you understand that under receivership, the school committee would lose all control, and the administrators also? They would tell us what to do, and we would have to say, they'd say to jump, and we'd say how high, and they'd tell us. So it's yes, and they tell the towns exactly what they have to do. So this is not a light situation. It's not something we can wait on. It's something we have to address now. And as uncomfortable as it is, it's got to happen. So John's suggestion was we have a meeting planned for next Wednesday. That is indeed before the deadline of the 1st. So we can go home, digest it, talk to constituents. There are 12 members of our committee. Send emails to all of us. Let us know what you're thinking. I'd be interested to hear from all 4 towns, their select boards, to find out and their finance committee people, just to find out whether you think it's possible to have special town meeting or special votes to get more money. I mean, I don't know. I think we're all sort of blindsided. We're not quite sure where to go to get that money. Whether you think we can help or that can help or not, I think we're up for all ideas anybody has that they think might work.
Point of order?
Yes.
The motion on the floor is to close Leiden and Warwick, and it had a second.
Was it both Warwick? No. It wasn't. It was an idea. There was not a motion. There was no motion.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought we needed a subsidiary motion to
No.
table it.
No, there was no motion.
No.
There was a thought,
Yeah.
a serious thought, but a thought nonetheless.
And a figure of speech.
Yes, Martha?
Okay, I'm sorry.
I just wondered, people, we read this to people, these figures and these suggestions and these options, but is there
Right.
a way for them to get this online or put it on the PVRS website or?
Sharon?
I gave somebody a copy to go ahead and make copies for themselves. They needed to have this information.
Well, that's what I mean, I
They're
didn't know
they're
how.
passing it out to each other or making copies. so.
Okay, because there's some things that I myself would want some feedback on, like even some of the smaller things, like, let's say we have to play around the edges. We close one of the schools, we play around the edges with how bad would it be not to have late buses? I mean, for example, I would just want feedback from people about.
So I would say if you have questions on anything specific, say the late bus at Pioneer. Call Jean. If you have questions on anything having to do with Pearl Roads, call Bob. You know, that kind of thing.
Okay, but I thought also people could, teachers and parents and whatnot could give feedback on how they feel about, like, we're gonna have to do something. So we can't just close our eyes
Right,
and say we're
yeah.
not gonna do anything.
Right, exactly.
So rate what would be the least painful.
There's a lot of conflicting interests amongst the towns.
Yeah.
Pardon me? I can't even hear you from here.
May I?
I think part of what I'm hearing is that there are a lot of conflicting interests amongst the towns.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I mean, it's, when we talk about the possible loss of one or both of our smaller elementaries, the folks who live within those communities are understandably very upset. And when we talk about cutting at the other end, the folks whose students are now at the high school level are understandably very upset. So I think that that's part of, that is part of the big picture here, is that
That's true.
we have a lot of, we're being pulled in a lot of directions as a
We have to
district.
take it all in its entirety.
And, yes.
Let's do it.
That makes the decision.
David?
It's important that we do not confuse the $1 million cuts that we need to make for FY19 with the $1 million that we've lost to date. They are two different sets. We've created budgets. It's really common to do so based on the prior year budget. And if you have deficiencies on revenue and you carry them forward, or deficiencies in your expense and you carry those forward, you refract them into the next year. We're on target, according to DOR and according to adding up the revenue shortfall in this year and the expense overages in this year, we are on track to lose pretty close to $500,000, $450,000. That assumes there is no additional school lunch debt. So that's $400,000. Prior year, we lost $358,000, and we got our school lunch debt. The year before that, the general fund was actually about $110,000 above water, and that's how we lost $358,000 last year, and our net worth only went, on the general fund, only went to $250,000 in the red instead of the larger number, because the prior year we had no E&D because of the school lunch debt, but we actually did have a little more than $100,000 of fund balance in the general fund ending the prior fiscal year. But we're underwater, $400,000 we're on track between the revenue overage, cuts were made during the year to accommodate that, but special needs costs that we didn't anticipate or fund to the extent needed, it took away those gains. $450,000 last year. I spent an hour on the phone with Ms. Handy today, and we need to make $1 million in cuts in our budget, and we need to add in, and I haven't even figured out what the add in, inadequate budgeting for health insurance, et cetera. But don't conflate the $1 million that we're in debt with the $1 million that we need to cut from our FY19 budget. They're entirely different. And if we don't do it and we're allowed to proceed, it's a $2 million debt.
All right, go for it. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Okay. My name's Jackie Hicks, and I'm an instructional assistant at Bernardston Elementary School. First, I want to thank all of you for everything you've done. It was a lot of hard work that the administrators had to do to come up with these suggestions on how to help save us money. And it's a shame that I'm seeing this. I already went through this in the Orange School District, and it devastated it, and I'm seeing the same thing happen here. So I'm really sad about that. I'm hoping that some answers can be made. On another note, I understand that you're going to have a phone conversation next week, a meeting on Wednesday, but per our contract, at least the instructional assistants, I, for one, I believe we need to know by June 1st, which is next Friday, whether or not we have jobs. I have 3 children, 2 at home who are disabled, and in all honesty, I would like to know, hopefully by next Friday, if I need to start looking. My husband's disabled, my 2 children are disabled, I carry the health insurance. If I'm going to lose my job, I would like to know by my contract date, which is written in my contract, because I'm going to have to start looking.
That's what we've been talking
Thank you.
about, and that's why we're having our meeting on next Wednesday, which is 2 days prior to the 1st, so that those things can happen before the 1st.
So would we have an answer by the 1st
That's our
on
hope.
whether or not we lose our job?
According to contract, that has to happen, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy, you had your hand raised. Oh. Okay, all right. Yes. Can you introduce yourself, please?
My name's Mary Bone, Northfield, Massachusetts. My son moved here from Los Angeles School District and is in his second year, completing his second year here at Pioneer. We came all the way here to this school knowing its history of greatness. And we have been in a world of not regret, but of mind-blowing frustration. The money has been misallocated. There can be no cuts to this school or any of the schools, to the administration, to the teachers, to the arts, to the athletics department, all of it. I mean, we all grew up in a public school system, and we got through it by the community, the parents, all of us trying to figure out not just a set of maybe 10 to 12 people who are going to make the decisions based on money. I came from a school that had an inner school in Los Angeles that had 2,400 kids in one school, a middle school at that. The community, the families came together with ideas and raised money to keep our teachers, our special ed teachers, our athletic department, the music department, and they're thriving because of the parents and the relatives, and not, in all due respect, not just a few committee members. You cannot do that. You need all of us. It takes an effing village to make it happen, and it cannot be just about a few people.
I do too, I object.
Object to my emotions, my honesty?
Language.
Oh, I apologize. I do. I'm so sorry. I have a terrible mouth. I apologize for that. My point is,
I'm leaving.
Yeah, me too.
I just said effing. I didn't say the whole word.
Okay, all right.
My point, Pat, is that I'm imploring the committee not make decisions based on cuts, and that you allow the entire communities of each community you've spoke of to come together as intelligent adults and help get us out of wherever the misfunding happened. We can bring it back. We will do it.
That's what I'm hoping will happen at the town level.
I would appreciate an example of the misfunding. I would love to know the misfunding.
No, misallocation of funds, David.
Okay, give me an example.
Not back and forth, please.
Could you allow her to answer an example of the misallocation of funds?
All right, maybe forget it.
Let it go.
You got my point, Dave.
Move on, please.
Okay. Kathy, did you have something to add?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, Peggy, you have one?
I just wanted to, I mean, we're all gonna think about what we've talked about, what we're gonna look things over. I mean, when Gail brought up the question of whether or not we'd be allowed, if we're a year or two still on the loan, I think that he went through a similar thing on their new school, and, which they have shuttered, and they had the foresight to plan a whole year of talks with the parents. It was a lot for them to digest, to have the kids on the bus. From everything you can read, and people I've talked to, because we have property up in Heath, the kids are very happy at Hollamont. They've made the adjustment. Sometimes I think the kids adjust more easily than the parents to change. So let's give it some thought. It's, to me, the lesser of some of these evils. And we'll come back again to vote.
Can you make it quick, because you've been up 2 or 3 times?
I think, exactly. I've been thinking about that, and I just, we're going to have to do different things, but I do think the opportunity to perhaps close one of the schools, try to reconsider what's going on with Warwick, I think we need to go back to our towns. I have to go back. I'll take up my 2.5 override paperwork that I printed out 4 months ago, look at it, and go to the financial committee, see if it's possible to have a 2.5 override. People here have given me hope, believe it or not. Even my old chemistry teacher, Mr. Raymond, I feel very good about that. So I just think there might be pieces that we have to say goodbye to, but I also think it's okay to go back to our towns and ask for more money. And I want people to feel empowered, because people are stirred up, and I think people will actually go and vote for more money. I believe that to be true, again, of Northfield. I also think that it's okay to be in debt for a period of time as we regroup. I think we have to be able to tolerate that idea. I don't want $2 million of debt either. I don't, but I also think that we have to make a good faith effort to make some cuts, and we also have to make an effort to get our tax bases higher to fund the schools, because I don't think people really realize the straits that we're in. And I do think we're going to have to carry a little bit of debt, but I'd like to think of it as more of a mix than all gone or all this. Just saying. Thank you.
Jeannie, you're last, and then we're going to move on to another agenda item.
I was just wondering, we heard from Ariel that the teachers are willing to help in any way they can. A consideration might be to increase the amount of what you pay for your health insurance.
That's a
It's a negotiation item, but it can't, just,
No.
I'm just throwing another idea out there to consider.
Thank you. All right. The next is a request we have.
Throw cold water all over it.
One last thing, David. Don't make it too cold.
I would like to throw cold water on your idea, and that is because when the employer pays the share of health insurance, it's not taxable. So in order to move part of the bill over to the employee, we'll pick their pocket for that, but they'll need more than $1 to pay the dollar bill, because they will have taxes on it. So what's important is for our employees to understand and appreciate that it's a major expense and it's a major part of the compensation, but it's more efficient. Yeah, it's pre-tax, but if they have to pay, but the portion that the 25% that I pay out of my check is taxable. Yes,
All
it
right,
is.
let's leave that for another discussion, okay? I'd like to move on to, we have a request for a waiver of a 18-month advance notice of retirement by Mary Lyden, and I believe that letter was in everybody's packet. I would like to take this under advisement and maybe talk about it at our meeting in a week and run this by our attorney, if that's okay with people.
I think we should.
I would like to vote on it. It's an incredibly generous gift that we should take advantage of and thank Mary Lyden. I think we should act on this.
I was advised to take it under advisement and talk to our attorney.
Okay.
Just a week.
Just a week, right. Is that okay with people?
Yeah.
Deb?
I have a question on that.
Yes.
Did we incur any additional cost by letting her know your time?
That's what I need to run by Russell and find out all the answers of these questions.
You don't know the answer to the questions.
Well, let's wait.
I don't either.
So we need to make 10 or 12 staff reductions, and here is one staring us in the face, and we have to think about it. Doesn't make sense.
We don't have to think about it, but I would like to talk to Russell about it. We meet in 5 days. So I think it can wait for 5 days if the committee decides that's okay.
You want a motion?
I'd like a motion, yes.
I'll make a motion that we move this forward, talk to the attorney, and then revisit it on Wednesday.
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
We've just discussed it.
Okay. Discussion? Hold on a minute.
I just had a quick question. Is there a sense, for whomever gave you the advice that you should discuss it with Russell, if we were to vote on it and then it turned out there was something legal that we had not been aware of, what would the repercussions of that be?
I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Russ. I don't know. I just would, that's why we need to talk to him. I'm just uncomfortable with having received that, that advice not to use him. That's what we pay him for.
You call the motion.
Yes. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Okay, Jeannie.
I was in favor.
Oh, okay, Deb and David against. Just for Ann, who's recording secretary, who's not here. Proposed school calendar. There's 2 options available here. And
Assuming we have school next year.
we will have school next year. The idea was, it was brought up by Pam when I was in the office one day, that if we had it on the 2nd Thursday, other than the 4th.
When you're talking about our school committee meeting.
Yes, yes.
Not the school itself, no, the district's calendar.
It says, school committee schedule, 2 options available, number 5.
Yeah, but it said school calendar.
Okay, so I misspoke. So the 2nd Tuesday would make it easier when it came to Thanksgiving. And there was one other, there's 2 days that it would, two days of within the year that the 4th Thursday runs into some kind of a holiday. And I can't remember what the other one was. But she said that this would make it easier if we could do.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I think Tanya's the one to ask, although she's not our business
That
manager.
was the other thing.
Would
Yes.
she be, I'm being optimistic that whoever is our new business manager will have reports for us at our meeting of the prior month. And another board I'm on, we wait till the 3rd month for the meeting because we need time for everything to
That's
get
what
done.
I heard, that this would be easier for a payroll person and other financial people to get stuff to us if we did it this way.
If it
rather
came
than-
sooner rather than later?
That's what I heard from Pam. Do you want to hold on this too?
I'd like to,
Whatever, I mean, I would really like to have reports.
Can we just postpone this until next Wednesday and
We can,
get some more information on what night's better?
we can.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
It's almost Friday, you know?
I know. Initiate a study for closure of elementary school. Do we want to do that?
Well, the Heart Committee's got
Didn't we
money
just
to do that.
Okay.
They've been trying.
Have we done any, I mean, there are a lot of things we have to look at, and
All right, shall we make a motion to do that and direct it to the Heart Committee to
Yes.
formulate that?
So moved.
is that,
Second.
I mean, okay.
All those in favor? Professional development dates did we receive those? Does anybody?
see any.
I don't see any either.
So,
Do you know if those were enclosed? They were.
It's on
Okay, so
here.
oh, okay, on the calendar. All right, okay.
Did we all get that?
Oh, I see. All right.
Well,
On the
Bill's got-
bottom of this calendar, it says, most,
Gail has a motion for us?
do you have the motion?
I wrote one and put it in your paperwork.
You did.
Basically, it changes 7 Fridays to full days. And it does keep a significant amount of Fridays as professional development. With dismissal times that make buses work.
I have it now. Motion to accept the professional development calendar with full-day Fridays, the weeks of Monday holidays. The additional Friday full days will be September 7th, October 12th, November 16th, January 4th, January 25th, and May 31st. This will also give the required hours for time and learning. All right, there's a second? Did you get the dates?
It's on this.
It's on the calendar.
Okay,
Because this calendar will go to families.
all right.
We already approved this.
No, we didn't.
No, not the professional development days.
Today's the 26th.
Yeah,
In April.
okay.
It says approved April.
Is there any discussion? If not,
No.
if not, all those in favor? Okay, David, are you positive or
I'm going to
not?
oppose. I think we should go to school on Fridays.
We are. This is more Fridays in school.
Yeah.
No, I think they should be all Fridays should be in school.
Well,
You have
Just
professional.
proceed.
Okay. All right, the motion passes with David opposed. All right. Now I've lost my agenda. It's somewhere. Personnel, we have passed over because we have put them on the hot seat all day. Policy Subcommittee exit interview. Bill is not here, but we have a CMP chair who is here that can probably speak to these things. Correct?
Well, I can tell you that it went from CNP to policy, and then policy stopped meeting. And now we find ourselves in the end of the year without the policy in place, again. And this is a policy that's been requested for a couple of years now. And so I'm bringing it forward again. I first brought it in November to see if the committee feels ready to put the full policy in place with the form.
Is there any discussion, or would somebody like to make a motion? We've discussed this several times.
not these forms, though.
Yeah, I believe it was the
The
same
forms were
form.
already approved. The only thing we're voting on is the policy.
I think everything has been discussed several times. Would you make that a motion,
All right, I'd
Sue?
like to make a motion that we approve the exit interview policy to accompany the form.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor? 4, 5, 6, 7, okay. Abstaining or against? David, Robin? You're, okay, so you're opposed.
I voted in favor.
Okay, so, okay, one opposition being Robin. Okay, moving on?
Before we move on,
Oh, yeah, right.
can I just make
Sorry
a
about that.
motion that this policy be retroactive to the spring of 2016 when it was requested very loudly by this community?
And a second?
Second.
Okay, yes, Judy?
And what will that accomplish, Sue, by doing it retroactive?
There have been people waiting to speak to this committee about their experience. And I would like them to still have the chance, not just the people that may choose to leave us this spring.
All right,
I guess
Judy?
I don't understand why we have to have this policy in place for them to speak to the committee.
Because
To get on the agenda.
Where have you been?
I believe it's just something that we need to have. I think people don't feel safe at speaking to a wide bunch of people. So there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting? Retroactive? Right.
To 2016.
Opposed? 4 opposed. Deb, Jeannie, David, and Robin. This is just for the recording secretary, in case she doesn't see hands.
Did it pass?
It did pass.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to speak to online learning courses and food service director job description? Are you ready for that under your
You feel
CMP?
ready, Jean? All right, let's do this. We did get some work done at the CMP meeting in May. So we had approved the online learning courses at Pioneer as a pilot. And we were in the process of trying to evaluate their value. It's more complicated than that, but it's late and hard to talk about that. Do you want to help me with this, Jean? Okay. So one of the things that we determined was that there was one type of hybrid online course we would not continue, and so that's not up for approval at this point. But the virtual high school classes and the Edgenuity classes that we have already piloted, we will, the CMP committee recommends we continue. I would like to keep in conversation with Jean about just how we evaluate our online learning experiences going forward. That's a bigger conversation and a longer conversation. We also approved several new courses for next year for the high school. As a committee, we recommended all of them. We didn't debate too strongly any of them. They are...
Did you want me to pass them out?
Yeah, so we have a list. They're creative, they're innovative, and they represent some of our new teachers putting new ideas forward, and some of our longtime teachers offering new options. So I don't know how much people want to discuss. We had a very healthy discussion at CMP, and we are recommending the full slate.
I'll wait till everybody gets them before I ask. They look like fun ones, good ones.
Well, then yours is probably front to back, and let me make sure. Okay, so let's just make sure we're all looking at the same courses. I'll read off of my sheet.
Okay,
Fine
that's
arts,
good.
intro to band, intro to jazz, marching band, high school band percussion, health and wellness, human sexuality, introduction to medicine, family consumer science, financial literacy, and under science, advanced placement biology.
We didn't get that last sheet.
Okay. Advanced placement biology. So it would be 6 credits. It's a full year, grades 10 through 12. Ecology is a prerequisite. It would be taught by Ms. Betzold. That's the plan at any rate, right? So that's the slate. Jean, how many credits is the question? For the AP biology?
6 credits.
Yeah, that was Martha's question, yeah.
That was how many years?
Yeah.
I was writing
AP
notes
bio.
to myself.
Yeah, but I've lost what else she was doing.
Penny bets are 6 credits, 1 year.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, I
is
see
that-
the 6 credits now. It was on there. It does say 6 credits right on there. I didn't see it.
So I'm
Yes.
assuming that whether or not these classes actually run would be by who signs up. I mean, if
Exactly.
we have too small a number, it would
It would not run.
automatically, yeah.
Okay. Would you like a motion? Would you make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the proposed new courses for 2018-19.
Second.
Yes. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Jeannie, are you in favor?
I read. yeah, I
Okay,
read my-
all right, didn't see, yeah.
It's been a long day, it's time to go home.
I know, we just haven't got our business done. No, we haven't got it there. We
all
haven't got there yet.
We should.
Food service director job description, do you want to talk to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So Gail and the food service folks worked very hard on a new food service director job description. And I want to recommend that we accept this as is.
All right.
Motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? All right, that's unanimous.
May I ask a clarifying?
Yes, you can.
So, the job description is approved. Are we advertising for .5 or 1.0? I guess, to divide that.
To be determined, I think.
Yeah, I would think that would be discussed next week, along with
This is for a
some-
halftime person, right?
Can I ask Gail a question?
Yeah, Gail, Peggy wants to ask you a question.
Is it conceivable that a person could fulfill the requirements in a half-time position?
It is conceivable.
Okay.
Then it's probably going to be half.
I'd be afraid so,
Thank you,
yeah.
thank you, Gail, and all the cafeteria folks for the work on that.
The miscellaneous updates, elementary band concert on the 5th at Pioneer. Town meeting, the only one left is Bernardston on the 6th, which is not the day of our meeting. Good, I was thinking it was. Graduations, Pioneers here on the 1st. Bernardston is the 18th. Pearl Roads and Warwick are both the same night of the 20th. And Northfield Elementary on the 15th. Concerning the first one, Pioneer, I would hope that all committee members would make a concerted effort to be there. Let Pam know as soon as possible so you can have reserved seating up front so we can see those kids and wish them well.
I'll be there.
I will too. So,
Pat,
please.
I have one to add to that, too.
Okay, all right. So please, 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 get there. It would be wonderful if we could get all 12 of us there. 6:30 at night, and it's a wonderful time, so, David.
We have one student who is graduating from the HEC Academy, which is run by our educational collaborative. Her name is Lana Dean, and she'll be graduating June 1st at 10:30, and the ceremony's at Sage Hall at Smith College. It'd be nice if Pioneer were represented. Another one of our students. I was thinking of going too, maybe we can go together. Also, Warwick's Memorial Day is Saturday, 1 o'clock at the Unitarian Church. And I'm going to presume that my Wednesday board meeting with the collaborative, I'm going to come here instead.
Say that one more time.
You want me to come here or go to the collaborative Wednesday?
Here.
All right.
Of course.
What time are
Okay.
we meeting Wednesday?
I would say, what time do people want to meet on Wednesday?
6. Might be too early for people to work, but.
What time?
6:30.
After chairs, I can't hear what's going on.
How about 6:30? That's a good compromise between 6 and 7.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
That gives me time enough to get home and eat my lunch before I come from work. Wednesday, all right. I don't work on Wednesday. Oh, well. Oh, well. Yeah, exactly. We have executive session here, but we don't need it tonight. There was an open meeting law violation that was brought on us, which was unfortunate, and it was solved yesterday. I can give you the particulars if you'd like it. Don't know if you do.
Can you really make it short?
I can make it really short. We had we had an article that appeared in the paper, and it appeared that we had 5 semi-finalists for a superintendent position, of which we only had 5 people that applied. So it was misprinted that they were semi-finalists rather than just people that had applied. So by that appearing in the paper, I received an open meeting law violation by George Forcier, who is the editor of the paper, saying that we needed to release the names of the finalists. Well, they weren't even semi-finalists. They weren't even people we had interviewed at that point. We looked at their paper resumes, period. We hadn't even discussed it between us, the people at the committee meeting. So I didn't think that I should have to release those names, so I did not. Yesterday, after I had spoken to our attorney, we released those names to Mr. Forcier. I received a letter in the mail, or I emailed him so I would get it in black and white that he had said that was okay, which sounds all hunky-dory, except that when I got home from work today, there is an email from a person that was also on our interview list for next Tuesday. Patricia, I called the number you called me at earlier this week and left a message. I wonder if I read about the current position listed in the article on the Recorder. In my school spring application, I checked that I did not want to be, I've cut off some of this, so I'm sort of making up the rest of this. On my school spring application, I checked that I didn't want to be advertised unless I became a finalist. When did I become a finalist? I have yet to be interviewed or to hear the scope of what is expected from an interim superintendent. The jump ahead has violated my privacy and has put me in a position with my current employer. Has something PVRS that I was why hasn't PVRS told me that I was a finalist? I would have informed my school board. At this time, I am withdrawing from consideration of that position. And he signed his name. So this is what happens, and I think you just need to hear this because we're down now to 4 people that have applied to this position. And we are interviewing all 4, and we are having to interview 3 of them over again because of this whole business, which really shouldn't have ever happened because we were doing it the correct way. So, and this is what ties us up. I talked to people today and said, you're really late at getting a superintendent on board, and this is what's caused a 3-week delay, is this business. And that's the same thing that's tied us up on this budgeting stuff month after month after month. It's not the information that is holding up the committee, it's that we are not getting the correct information, and we're getting blamed for not moving on and not doing our duty. But if you don't get the right figures for 2 and 3 years at a time, you cannot make the right decisions because you don't know how to make them. Jim?
Can I make a motion that we adjourn?
Second.
There's a person here.
My name is Stephanie Ciccarello. I'm from Bernardston. And to the
point of the superintendent position, I don't know what the process has been, but I'm wondering about, given where we are currently with our budget that you weren't even aware of till recently, what about the possibility of an interim superintendent from someone from the district? So it's a temporary position that gives you more time until you figure out this other situation and take a little time. That's all, just
We are
consider.
interviewing an interim superintendent. We have 2 in-house people, 2 out-house people, not out-house, 2 out-of-house, out-of-district people. And we will decide on who is the better candidate when we have interviewed them all.
Were you asking about an interim from now till July 1st? We can't do that.
I know you can't do that. I wish you could.
Yeah.
I know you can't. I know, I was talking about an interim for next year.
We are doing interim for 1 year with possibility of 2.
All right. I just wanted to be clear.
Sorry. When are we gonna do it?
The 2 next Tuesdays.
Next Tuesday?
Yeah, and those will be posted.
Oh, okay. At what, where are they going to be here?
Yeah, in there.
2 of them next Tuesday.
Yeah. No, 2 next Tuesday, 2 the
There's
week.
a motion on
Okay.
the floor that's.
Yeah, there is. All right.
What? No, I just wanted to.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to adjourn. Is there a second?
He seconded?
It's already seconded.
Okay, all
And we
those in
voted, I'm
favor?
leaving.
Okay, sorry, but
No, well, this is kind
Were you implying that there was only 5 people that applied for superintendent? Is
Yes.
that what you said?
yes.
we're lucky we had
Not
that.
blind, that's how many.
Okay. I don't know if that's true.
It's a 1-year situation.
And they're all semifinals.
Are you going to